And we are what's up? Upstate Carolina. How you doing? How do you do? Robert News on your radio. Monday. Let's get it going. I am Rob Brown. What's shaking, y'all? Good to be back with you. Hope you are exceptionally well. Hope you had a phenomenal weekend. I did tell you all about it up here in just a moment. But of course, where would we be? Lost in the wilderness somewhere. If it wasn't for the great, if it wasn't for Colonel Grudge himself, if it wasn't for the man, the myth, the legend, the content cash cow, Zoe is back in the network studio, pushing buttons, switching switches, making the show sound as good as it does today and every day. Lonzo, what up, fella? How was your weekend, man?
My weekend was good. I'm busy sending an email to Diesel to tell him to leave the camera alone.
I also had to change your name back from Diesel as well.
I'll fix that.
No, I fixed it now. Now you're just...
Yeah, well, no, it's there's just not enough title on there.
Oh, you need more recognition.
Yeah, I do. I found out there's a character limit.
On name?
Yes. It's I forget what it is. It's like in the 50s. I found it though. I got there. I was close. And it's like, you have exceeded the limit. All right. So there we go.
Too many nicknames. Too many nicknames for the great.
That's your fault. That is absolutely your fault.
I don't apologize. I don't apologize at all.
You know, they may not know what we're talking about. We're talking about
card is going to be ridiculous, by
the streaming. Yeah, we got to get new ones anyway because of no longer being that other name and now being Odyssey. We've got to get new cards.
Yeah.
So
your business card, if we stick your nicknames on it, your business card is going to be the size of a regular sheet of notebook paper by the time we're done with it. Lonzo back in the network studio. I am live here on the couch at the Casa de Love, broadcasting where I have been for well over a year at this point. The indent on the couch, squarely butt-shaped at this point. And I don't regret a second of it. Not a single second. Glad to be back with you. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. I did. Greenville Triumph are 1-0. After they were able to knock off the Richmond Kickers. It was a rough match, man. A very rough match. Not style of play from the Triumph, but the very liberal usage of cards from the referee in charge of the proceedings. The Triumph saw Cesar Murillo sent off with a second yellow card with about 10, 12 minutes remaining in the first half. So they played the remainder of the match down a man. A Richmond own goal in the second half was the difference. The Greenville Triumph likely deserved a goal earlier in the match, but could not find one. So Richmond gifted them one in the second half. But the key word in the phrase own goal is goal. They got one, and Greenville starts off their title defense 1-0 on the season with a full 3 points and an escalation to a tie on the top of the table in USL League One play. Their next match will be this Saturday. We will talk about that match later on in the show. Of course, join us on Wednesday at 1 o'clock when we do at 1:20 when we do our weekly Triumph segment. Got the opportunity to make it down to the well for a Swamp Rabbits game yesterday. They fall in overtime to the in-state rival South Carolina Stingrays. We'll break that game down. Coach Andrew Lord will join us later on in the week as well. But with all of that being said, we are at no shortage of stuff to talk about. So let us, Lonzo, dive right into the good stuff.
Let's do lunch.
This is a very nutritious lunch. All the food groups are represented. You guys here?
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
It is the lunch breakdown. The three things you have to know before you go start talking sports with your friends, family, coworkers, or the dog, whoever you spend your lunch break with. This will be the scuttlebutt around the lunch table. Item numero uno in the lunch breakdown today. We begin with, of course, the U of SC spring game. Yesterday, South Carolina got the first look at the Shane Beamer era, with the Gamecocks taking to the field in order to show off what they had accumulated in the playbook during this past spring effort. We're going to break it down at length throughout the duration of the show. There was some good, there was some bad, there was some ugly, and we're going to address all of it. Redshirt senior running back Zaquandre White, no doubt, no doubt, the MVP of the spring game, 95 yards and a touchdown as the Garnet picked up a 14-0 victory over the Black. It was not overwhelmingly something that I would put too much stock in. Look, the spring game, if we may just call the spade here, the spring game is as much about entertainment of the fans during the offseason as anything else. South Carolina had something like 23 players not play in the spring game due to injury, not available. So therefore, the team was unable to be split into two equal squads. So they ran first-teamers that were healthy against first-teamers that were healthy, second-teamers against second-teamers. They did that for two 12-minute quarters. The second half featured situational third down and distances, goal line, versus red zone offenses, et cetera, et cetera. Garnet team opened with Luke Doty, a 75-yard scoring drive. White was the featured back on that opening, carried the ball four times, including a 22-yard run to jumpstart the march on 2nd down and 8 from the Black 24-yard line. Doty was pressured, threw a pick in the end zone. However, R.J. Roderick was called for pass interference, setting the Garnet squad up with 1st and goal at the 10. 2 plays later, Doty threw a strike to Bell at the 1. White would dive into the end zone on a very aggressive 3rd and 1 play, which gave me a lot of hope. The Black team got its hands on the football next. Colton Gauthier led the offense. The drive fizzled, began an exchange of punts between the two squads. A 47-yard field goal by sophomore Mitch Jeter ended the stalemate and cut the Garnet lead to 7-3 in the first quarter. Zaquarian White displayed some of his pass-catching skills as well as athleticism on the next drive for the Garnet squad. On a screen pass, Doty was able to find the running back in traffic, a 19-yard catch and run into Black territory. Bell then capped the 13-play drive off with a 1-yard touchdown run, giving the Garnet squad a 14-3 edge with just under 8 to go. We would see Garnet put one more up on the board as FCS transfer quarterback Jason Brown, a guy who made a name for himself. Jason Brown made a very nice impression on his first drive of the day. 3 for 5 on the series, including a perfectly thrown 11-yard touchdown pass to a cat whose name I think you are going to hear a lot of times, E.J. Jenkins, his co-transfer from the offseason. The toss made the score at halftime, 14-10 Garnet. Kingsley and Igbari had 2 sacks. Zach Pickens came away with a fumble recovery. Sumter's Odeno Fortune was the game's leading tackler with 6 total stops. Tyreek Jackson also registered a sack. We are going to play just a little bit of the audio from Shane Beamer's post-game presser. Not a ton of it, but Shane Beamer had a few good things to say about the spring game. Here's a little bit of the wrap-up from Coach Beamer.
The format was a little bit different for us today, primarily because of injuries. I mean, you guys saw, I think we had 23 players that didn't play today that would be normally playing if we in a game.
Technical difficulties, please stand by.
I was about in the press conference earlier this week. And then when with the injury situation, we had 3 scholarship running backs out. We didn't know if JJ was going to play until really yesterday. So credit to him for coming out and having the kind of game that he had. But with that set up or knowing that, we just couldn't divide into the 2 teams. So we broke it up very similar to the way we did our 2 scrimmages, offense, defense there in the first half. And then the second half, so to speak, was competition, which was good. And then again, a lot of those injuries are postseason surgeries, rehabs, things that we've already had. And then some of those things, there are just some bumps and bruises that have happened throughout spring practice. Special teams, just, we did that drill there at the end of the first quarter. We've to finish up the spring. That's something we've been doing all spring practice. We didn't do punt today as a full group. Coach Limbo, what he did on the punt team at Memphis is different than what I did at Oklahoma and other.
Yeah, I kept doing this. Here you go. Pick up, though.
World to see. So that's why we did what we did. But I was pleased overall. It was good to see the offense come out. I talked about it earlier in the week. That wanted us to be efficient offensively, being able to get in and out of the huddle, minimize the pre-snap penalties, and feel like we did a great job of doing that. It's good to see us run the ball. Zaquandre White and Jaheim Bell, we knew they were going to have the opportunity to have big days today with some of the injury situations we had at running back. So I'm really excited about those guys. Like I mentioned a minute ago, great to see JJ and those guys come out and make some plays. So overall, pleased. We got out of it fairly healthy for the most part. Had a couple minor ankle injuries, but nothing long-term from that standpoint. So excited about the day overall. And now we go into the summer. Our guys have exams starting this week, so we got to finish up strong academically. They'll be gone. A lot of them will be gone in the month of May, and then we get back here June 1st for summer school. And this is a huge, huge summer for all of us.
So we'll go ahead and cut it there. We'll give you some more of the audio later on in the show, but there is Shane Beamer after the spring game from South Carolina. A couple of things we're going to talk about later in the show. First and foremost, missed tackles, my biggest concern for the Gamecocks this weekend, missed tackles. There were quite a few of them. In fact, in the red zone drills that were being run later on in the game, South Carolina missed a handful of tackles that would have been touchdown-saving tackles. Don't get me wrong, I certainly want to give some credit where credit is due. Zaquandre White ran through a bunch of tackles inside the red zone. We didn't see Kevin Harris and some other running backs because that running back room is racked up with injuries right now. I'm a little concerned about that. Having a guy or two hurt, certainly a big problem, but I think there were 4 scholarship running backs that were out due to injury. That is not great. But Zaquandre White absolutely stepped up and took advantage of that. We're going to talk about him later on, as well as E.J. Jenkins. Item number 2 on our lunch breakdown today. Is it time to panic just yet? The Bravos of the ATL yesterday played a double against the Arizona Diamondbacks, and not only did they get swept 0-2, but they got one between both games, between both 7-inning doubleheader matchups. There was one hit. Freddie Freeman had one single in the 6th inning of game number 1, and that was it. Bryce Wilson and was giving up hits left and right. Right in the first game, Zach Gallen carried a no-hitter into the 6th with a 5-0 win over the Braves to start the doubleheader in the first leg. Game number 2, the bat's quiet. It's you look, Zoe, I know you don't 3 weeks into the season want to start pushing the panic button, especially when you're an offensive ball club. It takes a while to get the bats going. But I got to tell you, man, it makes me a little apprehensive that we're 3 weeks into the season and the Diamondbacks in the back half of their rotation are able to hold the Braves to a single hit in 14 consecutive solo day innings. I don't want to reach up, open the cover, and slam the red panic button, but I'm running out of reasons not to at this point.
What percentage of games have been played? Like 0.5% or something like that with the amount of games that are out there?
We're coming up on about 3%, 4%.
Okay. Well, math, not my strong suit, but if you say so, but even so, it's a small enough sample size that you don't need to panic yet. Now, if we're a quarter of the way through the season and they're still looking, because there have been signs of hope there. If you get a quarter of the way through the season, but what do? I mean, are there firings that take place, or do you ship some guys out and bring some guys in? How do you fix it?
That's a wonderful question, and we will address that later on in the show because something's got to happen. But before we do, we got to fit item number 3 in here before we take our first break. Zoe, I'm just going to say it and hand it over to you. Kamaru Usman might be the best pound-for-pound fighter in the UFC at this point, active today, absolutely sleeps Jorge Masvidal with one of the most vicious right hands I have seen in a very long time. We're going to talk about what happened to Chris Weidman. We're going to talk about the Rose Namajunas win, but Kamaru Usman was the story of the night. That overhand right that slept Masvidal was absolutely brutal. There were questions about whether or not he would win that fight if Masvidal was able to get it down to a 25-minute wrestling match at the end of the night. Didn't matter. Usman is a freaking gangster, Lonzo.
Well, obviously, I picked Masvidal to win, and I was wrong. It was a good fight, an overall good card. Like you said, we're going to talk about the other stuff later, and man, that was rough. But considering the beginning of this whole thing, the way it ended was very exciting. And unfortunately, Masvidal was on the wrong end of it, but Usman, he's tough. I'm not going to give him pound for pound yet. I'm just not going to do that. I think pound for pound resides in one or two of the women more so than him yet.
Might not be wrong, but I think Usman put together a pretty damn good argument. We're going to do a special edition of the Fight Club later on in the show to break down the entire 261 card because it, Lonzo, was a good one. It was a good one down there in America's worst city, Jacksonville, Florida. We're going to talk about that later on. Let's take a first break. When we come back here in just a minute, spring game, Garnet and Black, South Carolina got it on down in Columbia on Sunday afternoon. We're going to talk to you a little bit about the breakdown. We'll hear some more from Shane Beamer. And if you watch that spring game, Gamecocks fans, I want your thoughts. What'd you take away from it? We'll address it next. Rob Lonzo, the Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It's Monday, baby. Let's have a little fun. This is ESPN Upstate.
Golf card.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your Amazon or Google smart speaker. Just say, play ESPN Upstate.
Spring is in the air, y'all. It's golf season, so why not do yourself a favor? Heck, maybe even do a favor for some of your family and friends and pick up the 2021 Upstate golf card. It is on sale and available now. You can get yours by going to ESPNUpstate.com. But why should I, Rob? You ask. Well, hypothetical listener that I just made up for this exact situation, you should, because it's the best deal for golfers in the Upstate. You're getting not one, not two, not three, but 9 greens fees at 9 premier Upstate golf courses for just $99. That's over $450 worth of value. You're getting it for $99. That's less than $15 around, less than $1 a hole. Why wouldn't you go play the Preserve at Verde or Pebble Creek or Legacy Pines or the Rock Golf Club and Resort or Carolina Springs or Willow Creek or Links of Tryon or the Rolling Green Golf Club or the club at Brookstone, which is new on the card this year? If I told you could get a round of golf at any of those 9 courses today for $15, you'd be like, hey, what time are we meeting on the first tee? I just told you can get them all for $15. Why wouldn't you do it? Go to upstategolfcard.com to learn more. Upstategolfcard.com to learn more. The 2021 Upstate Golf Card is on sale now. Get yours now. It's the Upstate Golf Card.
AutomotiveMap.com.
I have to plug my computer in and hit the restroom. I shall return briefly. Lonzo is in charge of the stream.
Wow, I'm in charge of the screen. Let me see if I can get through some of this. All right, Steven, please tell me, both of you guys watch Mortal Kombat and your thoughts. I watched Mortal Kombat. I don't know about Rob. Rob is a busy man and gets a little behind on some of these things, but I will tell you that I absolutely watched it, and it was what I expected it to be. The one thing about it, though, is that if you were looking for story, I don't know what's wrong with you, because storyline, you're not going to get it. It's a video game adaptation of a movie. But as far as the fighting goes and the fatalities, all that kind of stuff, I was really good. There were a couple CGI moments that I didn't like, especially Jax's arms in the beginning before he found his power. I thought that was a little, all right, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad as far as CGI goes. But other than that, and the big dude with a bunch of a bunch of arms. Is it Mordo? I forget his name. I thought he was a little bit could have been done better, but other than that, I like the movie, and it's setting up the next movie. And also, we find out. I hope Rob isn't spoiled by this, but they are looking for Johnny Cage at the end, and there's already people online trying to get the Miz to be Johnny Cage, and I think that would be an excellent casting. But is he a big enough star? He is everywhere. He is an A-lister. Would he be a great Johnny Cage? I think he absolutely would. So hopefully that'll happen. And JB says Nunes is no doubt the pound for pound best, with Usman being unquestionable number 2. I would throw in Shevchenko in there. Like we talked about Thursday, and I mentioned how Shevchenko seems to she doesn't get any credit, and she is awesome. And she is dominant, and she is not getting the credit that she deserves. And I would put Usman 3 behind her. I reluctantly would put Nunes first, and I put Shevchenko second. So there we go. I'm sure it's taken Rob a long time to fix his computer, or he's just sitting back and watching me, which I can't blame him.
No, I got up to use the restroom, came back, then realized that I left my phone sitting over on the table, had to go back and get it. I'm struggling today, man. Like on the air, no, we're going to have a great show. But who are you 1 and 2? I heard you start talking about it, but I missed it.
1 and 2 for me is Nunes, followed by Shevchenko, then Usman. Okay. Because, again, like I was saying Thursday, I talked about how Shevchenko doesn't get enough credit about how good she is. Yeah. And they mentioned it a little bit on the broadcast, but she's dominant, and there's nobody that can compete with her right now.
Doesn't look like it.
Usman still has some guys in his weight class that may have a shot at it.
We'll see him next.
Wonder Boy.
Not mad about it.
And that's not just because, he's from this area, but because I think I think they showed the ranking, he was like 4th or 5th right now. And at one time he was, the number 1 contender. And I think he can get back to that. 30 seconds.
I was thinking over the weekend about something that Keegan brought up last week about doing a Friday segment, a Fanboy Friday segment, where we do, we talk about whatever video games, movies, pop culture, music, etc., just anything we want to talk about that we're into right now. Do you think we should make that like an actual segment? Put a liner with it, etc. You think we can get away with it?
It's only one way to find out.
True story. All right,
call 844-GSP-ESPN. Local sports talk on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
Join us on the live stream, facebook.com/ESPN Upstate. We are live right now. We do every show live. It's like you're sitting uncomfortably closely face-to-face with me and Lonzo while we do the show every day. Steven, JB, handful of other folks in the stream with us right now. You can join us as well. Go to facebook.com/ESPN Upstate, facebook.com/ESPN Upstate to join us on the live stream. Look, we're trying to turn that into what is basically an extension of the show. I mean, as much as we want people listening to us on the radio, we want you watching us on the stream too. Plus, you get to hang out with us during all the breaks. Chat, Lonzo and I during the break were given our top 3 pound for pound UFC fighters. We got to that. We have gotten asked about the finale to Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I think we're getting to the point where we can discuss it. I think it's been long enough. You didn't watch it over the weekend. It is what it is. Mortal Kombat dropped this weekend, so we're talking about all of that on the stream break outside of sports. If you want to join us there at facebook.com/ESPN Upstate, twitter.com/The Rob Brown Show, twitter.com/Lonzo on Word, or search The Rob Brown Show on YouTube. If you've got the YouTube app on your smart TV, you can pull it up on your smart TV and watch it just like a regular old television show. Happy to have those of you on the stream joining us. South Carolina spring game this weekend. I hear a lot of people. I watch a lot of people, that have talked about these spring games as if they are a really solid predictor of what the team is going to look like when you get to the fall. And I'm going to tell you in advance, it's absolutely not. You're not going to get a great read for what the spring game is or for what the fall team's going to look like when the spring game pops up. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The spring game is a mix of two things. Number one, it is coaches just trying to watch the team put down fundamentals in a live action environment. And you could see that in the play calling by the coordinators on the field this Sunday afternoon. We saw it 2 weeks ago in the Clemson spring game as well. You're not going to get a whole heck of a lot out of the calls. They're not going to show their hand early in the spring. You're going to get very vanilla offense. You're going to get very plain defense. That's just kind of it. And the second thing is it's entertainment. It's entertainment and not much else. It is there for us as fans to get a little taste, to wet the old proverbial whistle, if you will, of in the middle of the offseason. It's just something to watch. And you got that out of the spring game if you're a Gamecocks fan. You got that. You got a little bit of entertainment. You got to see some of the stars, but 23 players on the sideline in the no-contact outfits because they are injured. It just is what it is. Now, with that being said, Zoe, I took cautious optimism away from the South Carolina spring game. One thing I didn't see a lot of mental penalties. I didn't see guys lining up in the wrong spot. I didn't see guys jump in pre-snap. I didn't see too many men on the field. There weren't really a lot of calls that I would consider dead ball mental breakdowns, right? And that's the mark of a good, disciplined team. The comparison that I have been making to the hiring of Shane Beamer, not to say it will have the same results, but to say that it had kind of an interesting look in terms of comparison, was the hiring of Willie Taggart at Florida State a few years ago. You had a guy with limited experience, although, yes, you did have Willie Taggart, who had been a head coach down in South Florida, up at Oregon for 1 year. He had been a coordinator. He had his own offense, whereas Shane Beamer has been around a lot of very experienced, very good, some Hall of Fame head coaches, but it had no experience as the guy rocking the visor and carrying the headset. I worried because with Willie Taggart, I was at a couple of the FSU spring games. Again, when he was hired, I was broadcasting in Destin, about an hour and a half from Tallahassee, kind of a similar setup. So much like with the Gamecocks, I was around that program a lot just because of proximity and fan base. Well, Willie Taggart's team, when he took over in Tallahassee for their first couple of spring games, a lot of mental breakdowns, a lot of guys lining up in the wrong spot, too many men on the field penalties, a lot of pre-snap whistles, a lot of false starts, a lot of offsides and defensive misalignments. I didn't see that, Lonzo. And I know that this is not something that folks at a program like Clemson are going to say, oh, hey, why are you bragging? Why are you bragging that you didn't get offsides calls? Why are you bragging that you were lined up right? Well, because for a first-year head coach, making sure that the discipline aspects of football are down is, to me, kind of step number one. And so, Lonzo, to see that South Carolina was mentally strong, they were disciplined, they were in the right place, in the right quantity of guys, they were listening to snap counts, they knew the plays, there wasn't many in the way of busted plays or busted coverages. That's something that gives me a little bit of optimism, Lonzo. You cannot understate how important it is to just get the little things right to build that foundation on.
I completely agree with you. For the most part, the spring games are just the window dressing to let you see, hey, this is some of the team. And you can't judge it entirely because all the players weren't there because of injury. Plus, you got the people who are coming in who were seniors and didn't come in early, and you don't know what kind of impact they're going to make. But I was looking for discipline. I was also looking for fire. and the fact that they seemed interested the entire time. That was one of my biggest complaints, other than the fact they couldn't win when Muschamp was there, was that they looked like they quit a lot. They looked like they didn't know what they were doing. And in this case, everybody seemed to know what they were doing. And also, this is your chance to get a look at Doty. And it didn't look too bad. And again, you're watching basically a scrimmage, and usually the offense is going to stand out because the defense can't get back there. They can't make sacks. Doty's passes seemed pretty crisp. He made a few mistakes, but other than that, I thought he looked really good. And that's all those things that I was looking for, I was able to see. But in the end, it's just a spring game.
I don't think you're wrong. Don't think you're wrong at all. Luke Doty looked confident. He wasn't doing anything to blow me away, right? Like, I wasn't looking at Luke Doty and going, "Oh, here we come. Here's the next Heisman finalist." But he was doing the little things right. He was doing the little things right. He was at a spot where he was making the right read. He was making the right throw. He wasn't making impossible throws, but he was making the correct throws, and that's the first step, right? Like I said, it's the spring game. It's the spring game. I don't expect to be out there making under pressure throws. There were a couple of things that were concerning. We saw a couple of screens out of South Carolina, which I think are going to be a big part of the offense. I think you're going to see a lot of screens. We know that Shane Beamer comes from that Lincoln Riley offense, an offense that is predicated on getting the running backs more opportunities, and that includes throwing them the ball. That includes a lot of screens. It includes a lot of running back flats and a lot of running back wheel routes out to the flats. There were a couple of screens, and the problem that I saw was that the linemen were way too late on the release. Way too late on the release. They were almost blocking a full 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds before they were releasing. There was one in I want to say midway through the second half where the linemen blocked for almost 3 full seconds before they released. And by the time that Luke Doty had the defensive lineman close enough to just kind of rainbow the pass up over him, the linemen were so late down the field that the pass dropped right into the hands of White, right into the hands of RB1. It was a good pass, but he was circled with linemen, right? There was nobody out front. With a screen, you want the lineman a couple of yards behind or a couple of yards ahead of the running back so that the lineman can catch the pass, turn around, and the blocks are already either established or about to be established to where he can make the read on which direction to go. Instead, he was quite literally in the back pocket of the left side guard and tackle. So when he caught the pass, the blocks weren't being established. He basically was running in the back pocket of his offensive lineman. He made a great play out of it.
All right,
in order to get some room, but that, I mean, if that's the biggest thing I get, Zoe, I'm almost nitpicking a little bit.
Yeah, I got to jump in here and defend the lineman. Sure. As a former lineman, I blame this on the running back for not being patient enough and going too fast and not giving them time to establish. I think that they played it perfectly. I think it was the running back's fault. As often it is, it's rarely the lineman's fault.
Lonzo, the ever valiant guardian of offensive linemen everywhere. It could be that. Let me rephrase that. There are times when, yes, the running back release is too early.
Listen, as someone as a pulling guard who's had a running back run up his back because, and I wasn't exactly slow, I wasn't a speedster either, but still I was fast enough to get around that corner. The running back has to have patience and understand the speed of the lineman in front of them and allow them to establish before they hit their burst. And he got up on them too quick. So I'm blaming him.
He said, "Did you see the play I'm talking about? Or are we just going blind vengeance?" And
Yeah. I saw the play that we're talking about. And of course, my expertise is in linemen, and I'm absolutely right in this observation.
I love it.
You're just going to take the skill positions, side and not give the love to the men who deserve it the most.
I'm an equal opportunity offender. I'm happy to talk down whoever's this particular screen. I will call out the running back for releasing too early and getting ahead of his blocks. This particular screen, the offensive linemen set their blocks too long. And I get it. I understand. South Carolina's defensive line is going to be the strength of the defensive unit this year. And the last thing you want to do is get Luke Doty mauled while you're trying to set up a screen. They held the block as if it was just a regular pass.
And the other thing is, this is your guys going against your guys. They know the plays, so the defense is going to have the advantage on this guy, and it's going to make them look quicker than what they are because they'll recognize the play a whole lot faster because they've went against it in practice a ton. That's another reason why spring games don't really tell the story of the team.
844-477-3776, 844-GSP-ESPN. Text us at 71307, 71307. Start your text with ESPN on the Ingles Market text line. At ESPN yesterday was Bark at the Park Day at Truist. I am convinced a Labrador could have put a ball in play better than the Braves yesterday. Yes, Air Bud would have been a better option than even the great Freddie Freeman. One single in the sixth inning of game number 2, and that was the only offense the Braves generated in both games. We're going to talk more Braves baseball later on in the show. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up our talk about the Gamecocks spring game. South Carolina fans, especially if you went to Columbia yesterday, I want to know what your experience was. But for those of you who stayed home and watched it on ESPN Plus, I want to know what your thoughts, what were your takeaways from the spring game. I got a few more I'll share with you coming up next. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo, the content cash cow. This is the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your phone every...
What's up, everybody on the stream? Welcome back. It's Monday, baby. Good weekend, man. Good weekend. Triumph won Saturday night. Swamp Rabbits unfortunately fell. Really good game they against South Carolina yesterday. They took a 1-0 lead less than 5 minutes into the first period. South Carolina would draw level. The Rabbits would go up 2. South Carolina would get the equalizer back midway through the third period. And then the Stingrays just dominated overtime, which was frustrating. But we'll get there.
Did I see the play? Really?
Only because I have met folks in my past who, in this profession, did not feel obligated to watch games in order to have a breakdown about them. Like they felt like they could just watch the Sports Center highlights and feel like they had a good grasp on the game itself. And I could not disagree more with that. And then would go on and talk about games like in detail, even though they would admittedly not watch them. And I've had a chip on my shoulder about that ever since.
Hey, how tall is Doty? He looked kind of short.
He really did, but I got to tell you, man, like I know South Carolina is at a bit of a talent disadvantage this year, but their defensive line and then their offensive line to some degree as well. Luke Doty 6'1", according to his Wikipedia page. So let's give him 5'11", maybe 6 foot, but he's not much shorter than 6 foot if he isn't. The OL and DL for South Carolina both looked pretty good in the spring game overall.
I agree. And the backup quarterback Brown is Brown, right?
Yeah,
he
looked really good.
He also looks tall, and it doesn't matter the tall and short thing. He looked really tall, and the fact that that's a guy who came from FCS, right?
Yes, they
transferred in
him and
the receiver that played really well.
Whose name I just blanked on.
30 seconds.
EJ. I'm glad we're not doing this on air.
Yeah, you talked about him in the segment, and he looked good.
EJ Jenkins, that's it. Yeah, they're both transfers from the same team, as a matter of fact. So,
but don't get upset about not knowing names, because there's a lot of new names on this team, so it's going to take a little while to learn them, and hopefully they stand out so much that you learn them really quick.
Yeah. Jason Brown, EJ Jenkins.
Text us anytime at 71307. Use keyword ESPN followed by your comment. Local sports talk on The Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate, 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg, and all around the world on the Odyssey app. AUDACY, your new home for all the audio that matters to you. Download the Odyssey app today and listen to your favorite music, news, sports, and podcasts. And listen to ESPN Upstate. All our live local programming is carried around the clock on the AUDACY Odyssey app. Pick it up now on your smartphone device, on your tablet, on your PC. And don't miss a minute of Offsides with Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. A minute of the Rob Brown Show with Rob and Lonzo on the Odyssey app. And go to our website at espnupstate.com. espnupstate.com. Not only is it your home for all the sports news and information that matters to you as an upstate South Carolina sports fan, but you can also click right there on the top. There's a button right dead center at the top of the website that says podcast. You click on that podcast button, and you can pull hour by hour, every hour of both the Rob Brown Show and Offsides. If you miss a minute of programming, you can pick it up on the podcasting format, download it to your PC, your laptop, your cell phone, your tablet, and listen to the shows on demand. That's espnupstate.com. All right, quick little finish up about the spring game. FCS transfer quarterback Jason Brown made a very nice impression on his first drive of the day, 3 of 5, including an 11-yard touchdown pass to EJ Jenkins in the right corner of the end zone for the Blacks' only touchdown of the day. And it was, he had a very efficient drive. Couple of misfires, but they weren't off by months. They weren't off by much at all. I was very impressed. By Jason Brown. One thing I saw, though, and this is something that I would caution Gamecocks fans about. I would caution them. I saw yesterday after the spring game, I was scrolling through Twitter last night after I watched the spring game on replay. And I saw a bunch, Lonzo, of South Carolina fans who were going, oh, this kid ought to start over Luke Doty. This kid should get the nod. This kid should get the thumbs up. Caution, danger, Will Robinson. It was one drive in a spring game against the backup defense, all right? Yes, it was with the backup offensive line and backup wide receivers. But don't panic just yet. Like we mentioned, the spring game is a time for testing. It's not a time for making drastic changes. I think from what we've seen from the spring practices, that Shane Beamer's got the right decision in having Luke Doty listed as QB1. I think that's the right call. I would caution you to start calling for Jason Brown to take his spot after one drive in the spring game. Yes, it looked good. Yes, it looked efficient. But against the backup defense, and keep in mind, with not one but both starting corners gone to the NFL in JC and Israel, this South Carolina defensive backfield is going to be a question mark for a little while till they find a guys. And we saw some difference makers at the cornerback spot, and they came up with some big plays. But the South Carolina defensive backfield is already a question mark. I'm not quite prepared to say that Jason Brown needs to get the starting role after one good drive against the defensive backups who were, keep in mind, at the quarterback spot, the safety spot at least, guys that were second and third stringers last year as well. I caution Gamecocks fans, Lonzo, don't take the spring game and call for sweeping changes. In fact, I'd say the opposite. Be pretty happy with what you saw in the way that Shane Beamer's got the depth chart organized right now.
Also, keep in mind that he's throwing to a receiver that he played with last year in a lower division. So he has chemistry with this guy. That's his buddy. So he already knows his routes. He's got those down. He doesn't have to question where he's going to be when he throws the ball. So that gives you an advantage too. Yeah,
the touchdown thrown to E.J. Jenkins, who might be a star. I'll tell you the truth. The guy was physical, athletic. I want to say E.J. Jenkins checks in at he's a pretty tall guy, but I want to say he checks in somewhere in the neighborhood of like 6'7", 6'6", 6'7". He's a big dude. St. Francis, where he and Jason Brown both transferred in from together, has him listed at 6'8". So he's very much a throw it up and let him go get it kind of guy.
And South Carolina has him listed at 6'7". So he's probably 6'5".
So let's give him 6'6". All right. St. Francis gave him 6'8". South Carolina gave him 6'7". Once you
get above a certain height as a receiver, it doesn't matter. You're really tall.
Yeah, the difference between $1 million and $1.2 million is like not that much once you get there. The difference between 6'7" and 6'8" when you're going up against 5'9", 5'11" cornerbacks is pretty much just icing on the very tall cake at that point.
Yeah, you can jump really high, but all I have to do is reach.
Yeah. So don't get carried away. Again, E.J. Jenkins and Jason Brown transferred in together from St. Francis. They have the chemistry, like Zoe pointed out. Great point that they've worked together. They've run these routes together. They've got the timing down. Now, whether or not Jason Brown might take the backup spot from Colin Gauthier, who was QB2 in the spring game this weekend, that's a more realistic question. Gauthier had a couple of spots where he looked a little hesitant to throw down the ball down the field not into traffic, but into tight windows. Took off running a couple of times. Now, somebody pointed out to me, they said, well, Luke Doty did too, right, but Luke Doty is a legit threat to run. That guy's a QB that if he gets to the outside of the pocket, he can turn the corner and make some things happen. I'm not saying Colin Gauthier isn't. I'm saying he's got some work to do to earn that as far as I am concerned. Whether Jason Brown can be QB2 in case Luke Doty goes down or starts underperforming, that's a more valid question after the spring game, I think. But, no doubt the name to keep an eye on after what we saw is Zaquandre White, 95 yards in the touch. Shane Beamer did an interview in the second half of the spring game, second quarter of the spring game, and they asked about Zaquandre White, and he said, look, I don't know what his problem was last year. I don't know why the numbers weren't there last year. This kid's a stud. He's an high-effort guy. He said every rep in practice he runs like there's a bowl game on the line. He's a guy who gets the most out of every rep. He looked phenomenal in the spring game, absolutely made the most out of every opportunity that he was afforded to tote the rock. Zaquandre White, we know that RB room is going to be stacked up for South Carolina this year, especially when we start getting some guys back and healthy. But I got to tell you, Zoe, running against the first-string South Carolina defense and a defensive line that's going to be pretty good this year, Zaquandre White made the most out of his opportunity. Don't be shocked to be hearing his name called a lot more frequently, and Shane Beamer seems to be a believer.
He looks really good. He's very elusive, and he's going to have to be going up against SEC defenses because they are looming and they hit hard.
Fact. Hashtag facts. All right, 844-GSP-ESPN, 844-477-3776 is the number to be a part of the program. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour numero uno. We got some baseball talk to get into in hour two. We'll break down UFC 261. And, of course, it's draft week, baby. So I'm going to tell you the thing that made me the angriest today, and it happens every year on draft week, and it infuriates me every year on draft week. I'll tell you what that is coming up in the next hour of the Rob Brown Show. It's ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your...
Adam says, do you think Madison Bumgarner should be credited with the no-hitter? I mean, yes, if we are going to play 7-inning games, it's a game, right? I mean, I understand the premise of wanting to keep the no-hitter at a 9-inning deal sacred. I understand that, but it's not on Madison Bumgarner that he's told you got to work 7 for a complete game. Adam, if we're going to record 7-inning games as official games, then I don't understand why guys who perform a feat in 7-inning games aren't going to be credited with performing that feat in a 7-inning game. I had the same conversation last night with a guy who said that they should not because, well, what happens if a game stopped after 5 innings? Well, hit me up when that happens, right? Let me know if baseball ever decides to start playing 5-inning games. But as far as I know right now, baseball has said 7-inning games are official. And if Bumgarner can hold a team like the Braves hitless in 7, then why shouldn't he be credited for doing it, right? Even if you want to add a category of statistics that are 7-game asterisks, right? Even if you want to put him down as the whatever 10th no-hitter of the season, but mark it down as a NH7, and we stick a little 7 out to the side of whatever records are matched, no-hitters, perfect games, whatever, defensive categories or pitching categories. I think that's probably where, I mean, if you start including 7-inning games in offensive statistics, I think it makes them more impressive, right? But if we're going to start putting pitchers into games and tell them that a 7-inning game is a complete game, and they go out there and they adjust their game to be a 7-inning full game guy and get a no-hitter, as far as I'm concerned, they ought to get the credit, even if you want to write on the record books, no-hitter, parentheses, 7I off to the side. I'd be fine with that.
I don't know if you saw the picture, and this is inside baseball, but I don't care. Our production room has been completely redone. Now I no longer have to tiptoe past the boss's office to go get some things done that I can't get done in my office. Now I can just take a few steps. And I remember it's been a while since that's been the board that was in there. We brought from our old
The board that was in there was older than me.
Yeah,
like that's not a joke. It was.
By the way, it was. I was probably a teenager when it was created. It was pretty old, and they brought that over from our old building when we used to be on Rutherford. And I'm not sad to see that thing go.
No, not at all.
So it's just
there are times to be sentimental. The death of that board was not one of those times.
It should be in a museum somewhere. 30 seconds, by the way. I can't wait to get the new boards in here
My favorite
learn how to use them.
Was the Planet guys sent out the email this morning?
Yeah.
Like, we get a new board?
Yeah. And I hope they're watching. I hope they're watching right now. Everything ain't about you, man. I haven't had a production room in a couple years because of stuff. So just stop it.
Time for it's the young guns time, boys.
Down on Twitter. Tweet at The Rob Brown Show on the Upstate Sports Leader, ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show on your radio on a Monday afternoon, wrapping up hour number 1 here on ESPN Upstate, 97.7 FM, 97.1 FM, Spartanburg, and all around the world on the Odyssey app, AUDACY, the Odyssey app. Let's wrap up hour number 1. I'll tell you what's coming up in hour number 2. Number 1, we're going to talk some Bravos baseball as things went very bad for the ATO yesterday. Got swept in a doubleheader. Madison Bumgarner in game number 2 held the Bravos to no hits. Should he get credit for a no-hitter in a 7-inning game? We'll address that and a whole lot more. My name is Rob Brown. Lonzo at the helm. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate, y'all.
ESPN Upstate.
That sounded like some really killer boss fight music right there.
Yeah, it did. I picked it and just listened to a little bit of it. That's the most I listened to it. Yeah. And once it got going, it absolutely did.
It good, like the room you just walked in and the boss lands in his giant mech suit.
I will, throughout this week and maybe next week, continue to add to that library. So
sweet. I don't know if you saw when Mark was in there on Friday. Did they run the stream off of one of the computers in there?
I think they ran it off of Mark's computer.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, in essence, would be your computer. Yeah. So, yes.
Well, and the only reason I was thinking about it over the weekend after I watched a few minutes of them on Friday, my big question was, we have a delay when I host it, which is fine when I'm not here, but like the delay of your video is about 1.5 seconds behind your audio, right? And so when you're talking, you finish up your point on air and you're still talking on cam for like another 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds.
By the way, that works that way here too.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I'm behind the audio on your end?
Yes.
Okay. So it's going to be fine on the stream because it's generated. The stream is actually generated off of my computer, obviously. So I'm wondering if we're going to be able to get a dedicated streaming computer in there when we come back, fingers crossed, so that we can both be matched up to the audio.
This is a dedicated.
So there is one in there. Just
yeah, we were using the computer that was. If you were sitting looking at me, there was another computer to the left.
Yeah,
we're using that, and we're just using that for stream. Yeah.
So we would need to make that go away. Then we would need to run an audio out from the board into the computer. And both cameras into the same computer.
I don't think there would be a delay if we're both in the same room.
It would be off of my laptop.
If you're using your laptop, but you can use you wouldn't have to.
Oh, because I'd use an audio straight from. Well, no, because I can plug your camera into my laptop. That would be the only way to get rid of the camera delay.
You know what? Let's cross that bridge when you're actually here, which would be awesome. I wish.
We might be discussing.
Warning.
Yeah, I wish we were figuring it out right now, but
Represents being real. Yeah. Real, unfiltered sports talk manufactured locally for the Carolinas. Lockdown! This is the Rob Brown Show. Yeah. Only on ESPN.
ESPN Upstate.
Monday. So good to welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. Sup, y'all? Gonna be back in the saddle again. I'm back in the saddle again. That's 2 songs to open up the show. I am Rob Brown. Lonzo back in the network studio, pushing the button switch, and the switch is making the show sound as good as he does. The alpha and the omega of ESPN Upstate. Hashtag Dad Kicks, Colonel Grudge, the content cash cow, the conductor of the symphony of sound that is the Rob Brown Show. I am Nay, but the musical accompaniment to Lonzo's directions.
Hey man, thank you for being the backup band. I appreciate it.
I'm happy to do it. I'm backup vocalist, backup dancer, security guard. Well, actually not. I got to take security guard off my list of jobs since I'm not there. Not much need for a bouncer here at the Casa de Love. People aren't exactly lining up to get into the house. You know what I'm saying? A lot of stuff to get to, a lot of stuff to talk about. 844-GSP-ESPN, 844-477-3776. Text us at 71307 on the Ingalls Market text line. Shoot us a text at 71307. We will read them and address them on the air. You can tweet us at The Rob Brown Show, at Lonzo on Word, and at ESPN Upstate. All 3 handles to get in touch with us here on the show today. We certainly want you to do so. We are going to talk a little Bravos baseball coming up in this hour of the show. UFC 261 will be coming up here in just a few minutes as well. Yesterday, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I wanted to hit on it. We got a chat in our stream at facebook.com/ESPN Upstate from Andrew. Andrew said, do you think Madison Bumgarner should be credited with a no-hitter in a 7-inning game? And the answer is yes, he should. Look, I don't think that pitchers should have it held against them. Madison Bumgarner held the Braves hitless in a 7-inning game in a doubleheader yesterday. I don't think that Major League Baseball should hold it against Madison Bumgarner that they have decided that doubleheaders are only going to be 7-inning games. I mean, first and foremost, I personally am not a fan. I understand the reason behind them. I just don't like 7-inning games, even with a doubleheader, right? Like, it's never been. I understand you're trying to shorten exposure time, but so I haven't gotten to the point where I can understand why having baseball players on the field for one day for 14 innings is somehow drastically better and more healthy for them. You guys know I've been pro-mask, I've been pro-social distancing, I've been pro-vaccination. I'm pro everything we can do to make this crap stop, including guidelines to limit exposure between players. I don't understand how playing 14 innings is okay, but playing 18 innings is somehow like drastically worse for Major League Baseball than just playing the 14. But since baseball has decided to take 7-inning games as a doubleheader, if a guy like Madison Bumgarner goes out there and throws 7 innings hitless, he should get credit, even if you want to put a little parenthesis 7I out to the side to denote that they earned a no-hitter in a 7-inning game. They still ought to get the credit. I mean, pitching 7 innings, no-hit baseball in Major League Baseball is friggin' tough to do. And Bumgarner not only did it, but he did it against a team that is supposed to have one of the most prolific offenses in Major League Baseball. So I absolutely think he should have his name in the record books for throwing 7 innings. If baseball decides 7 innings is a full game, why do the records not translate as such?
Well, here's the thing. If this is how this is going to be going forward, from now on, is it going to be 7 innings for doubleheaders? If it is, just make another category. There's nothing wrong with that. I know that one of the problems with baseball is they're so stuck on their rules that are so many years old, and they're unwilling to change things and update things. That's why it's considered the old man sport. Just make a change. You don't even have to put the asterisk out there. Just make a separate category for 7-inning no hitters, and there you go. Problem solved. You don't have to put it together with the 9-inning. It's its own category. Everybody's happy, but they won't do that.
Yep, absolutely. 844-477-3776. Appreciate that question. Adam, good to have you pitching in on the stream. You can join the dream at facebook.com/ESPN Upstate, facebook.com/ESPN Upstate.
Hey, you said you could join the dream. And man, you're so right. You were so right.
You can't.
You're absolutely so right. I'm going to pretend like you did that on purpose.
Freudian slip that was accurate is still accurate, right? We are indeed. Anytime somebody asks me away from radio, man, how's it going? And I say, living the dream, I'm being totally sarcastic because I'm not in my regular life. But if you ask me how I'm doing when I get to sit around and talk sports and make money doing it, heck yeah, I'm living the dream. At ESPN, remember something with Randy Johnson throwing a 10-inning complete game, but they would not give him credit for a complete game because a complete game is 9 innings. Apparently, they later changed the ruling on that. I don't remember that. I'll have to go back and look that up. But yeah, so hit on something big, which is when baseball feels like a baseball thing is a baseball thing, they're usually very unwilling to change it. They're usually very unwilling to change it because, well, that's the way it's always done. We don't care. We don't care. And just to be clear, in case I hadn't made it clear, we don't care. Okay, good talk. Glad we had it. Good talk. Some of the other things I wanted to get into on the show today. There is something that happens every year during draft week. And every year on draft week, I let it work. One of the things that Lonzo and I, and anybody who does this job for a long enough extent of time, and Zoe, I think you'll agree with this, one of the talents, I guess, that we pick up in doing this job for as many years as Zoe and I have done it is you start to be able to really pick out. You start to be able to really pick out spots where you can tell when somebody who is broadcasting is being disingenuous, is giving you a made up feeling because they're trying to get attention for it. And that, unfortunately, at least unfortunately to me, that in this industry happens like way too much. All right. Somebody once, many years ago, I had a co-host back in the day, and the co-host loved more than just about anything else, Alonzo, to go on the air and say things that he would tell you away from the show he very much didn't believe in. And his whole basis for that was when I asked him one day, why do you say things to people that you don't believe and are therefore untrue? And his answer was, well, because this industry is about entertainment, right? It's about entertainment. And if I say something that aggravates the crap out of a lot of people and they call in to call me idiots and they call in to tell me how dumb I am and how my take's bad and whatever, it entertains people. And his logic was, we are characters the same way that characters on a TV show or characters in a movie are, right? Like the characters in TV shows and movies do things that we all hate all the time. And we're cool with it and we love it. We love a great actor who can go on and say and do things that are absolutely abhorrent in a television show or a movie because it gives us something to root against, right? And he said, I'm just doing the same thing. And I understand that premise, but I'm just not a fan, Lonzo, right? Like I'm not a fan. Chris Sims who's with NBC Sports. Is it NBC? Yeah, NBC Sports and Pro Football Talk put out his 2021 draft rankings and where he sees everybody at different positions. And he threw a few on there, Zoe, that absolutely infuriated me. Not because he's wrong, and he is, but he threw up a few that are so blatantly, obviously bad takes that I am of the belief that the only reason he did it was to get attention, right? It's not so much about entertainment so much as I want attention so that I can have a brand. I'll give you two of the most egregious ones. Lonzo, for Chris Sims' 2021 NFL draft rankings at the quarterback spot, here's how he ranked them. Number 1, Zach Wilson. Number 2, Trevor Lawrence. Number 3, Matt Jones. Number 4, Kellen Mond from Texas A&M. Number 5, Trey Lance from North Dakota State. And number 6, Justin Fields from Ohio State. Now, Zoe, I understand you probably won't be as angry as me at the flipping of putting Wilson 1 and Lawrence 2, but then he dropped your boy Justin Fields all the way to number 6 behind Kellen Mond of Texas A&M. Is it just me, or is this a guy shouting into social media, begging for attention?
No, as soon as you said that first one, it's like, are you kidding me? And, Clemson hate or love aside, Trevor Lawrence is number 1 for a reason. He should be number 1. To me, there's a 1A and a 1B. I have some bias and then there's stats to back that up. And that's why I think Justin Fields is number 2. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Some people want attention and they do things that way. But what if he really believes that?
Then he's bad at his job.
Well, there could be that. He could actually be bad at his job, but being able to do it from a national standpoint, he's got to be decent at it, or it just has to do with who his dad is. I don't know, but yeah, that's pretty bad. It is pretty bad.
It's worse than pretty bad. It's atrocious.
But he got you to talk about it.
Yeah, and I guess that's the frustrating part to me, Zoe, is that I know I'm playing his game and he's winning, right? Like, I know he's playing his game, and I know I'm playing it for him, and I know he's accomplishing what he set out to do, because here I am talking about it. I'm going to say this. Don't go look at his Twitter account. Don't go like it. Don't go retweet it and talk about how angry you are, even though I did that already. All right? Don't do it, because that's what he wants. That's what he wants. At the cornerback position, Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech, Tyson Campbell out of Georgia. Then he has Patrick Surtain II out of Alabama, a guy who will be a top 10 pick at number 3. Aaron Robinson out of UCS at 4, Paulson Adebo out of Stanford, and Kelvin Joseph out of Kentucky. Doesn't even mention J.C. Horn out of South Carolina, a guy that most of us feel will be off the board by 14 or 15 at the very latest. It's a bad take. And this crap happens every year. You get national guys who go out there and they put out their draft rankings, and they're so stupid bad, and they do it for attention. And I'm an idiot, because I'm sitting here giving it to him.
You know what he's doing? He's making Mel Kiper look like a god, is what he's doing by doing this stuff. And Mel Kiper misses a lot too, but not like that. He's doing it on purpose. You're right. He's doing it on purpose.
Right? He has to be.
He's doing it. He's smiling. He's smirking the entire time.
There's missing, Lonzo. We're all going to miss. There's 32 first-round guys. You give me a dude who nails all 32 being good or bad, and that guy will go down as the greatest draft evaluator of all time. There is missing, and then there's just making stuff up, right? Zach Wilson, there's the potential, if he gets on the right team, that Zach Wilson will be a star. I'm not disagreeing with that. Zach Wilson might be a stud at the next level. And there's some element of the right guy going to the right team. We have seen plenty of quarterbacks and head coaches and running backs and defensive linemen, defensive backs. We've seen plenty of guys that turned out to be really good players who went to the wrong team, the wrong program, the wrong scheme, and sucked, and it was because of the franchise, not the player. We've seen it all the time. That happens. But there is a difference between I project Zach Wilson will be bad because the Jets are a dumpster fire, ding, 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 and Zach Wilson is a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. Even if you don't like Clemson, OMG, if you think Zach Wilson's a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence, you have no business doing this, all right? And I don't say that often. You can make an argument that Zach Wilson might have a better career than Trevor Lawrence, but it is speculative at best, man. Speculative at best. He wants attention by getting, it happens every year. You get those one or two guys. And the problem I have, Lonzo, isn't that he issued a bad take for the sake of attention. It's that major platforms let people like him get away with it every year. Why is NBC Sports promoting this? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 844-GSP-ESPN, 844-477-3776 is the number. When we come back, let's take a look at some of the more recent updated mock drafts. A big projected trade for two teams in the NFC South that could shake up everything in the division. I'll tell you about that when we come back. I'm Rob Lonzo. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your computer and tablet at ESPN.
Steven said he talked about the new COD map. Sorry to step out. No, I did not, Steven, yet, but I will now. Verdansk is good. I like it. They changed a few areas in the map. They got rid of Shipwreck. They added, instead of the dam, you've got the summit now, which I like a lot. You've got the array, which is very interesting with the altitude changes and the up-down fighting. A lot of the buildings in downtown. In fact, a lot of, and this isn't talked about, there's a lot of the small buildings that they actually changed the layout in. There are two buildings at Boneyard, which are just to the north of Boneyard, two little apartment buildings right at the top, and that's a favorite hot drop spot for me and the boys in the WOW gang. We drop at the Boneyard Apartments on the north side, and we've developed a strategy for when we land there about the way that we clear out these two buildings and move top to bottom, clearing room by room, which has been great. The old apartments had two empty apartments, so you could land on the roof. The top two stories, all the boards, all the rooms were closed up, and then the bottom floor, there was a room to the left that was open and a room to the right that was open, and the room on the left was like a 2-bedroom apartment with 2 rooms with closed doors you had to open, and then the one on the right was a little 1-bedroom studio kind of apartment. And we had ways of cleaning that out. And then when we dropped in the new map, now there's only one room open downstairs, but there's a second room that's open upstairs, and the roof layout is different. So now you are, in order to get in the old one, the door to the upstairs off the roof faced away from Boneyard, so you weren't really exposed from Boneyard where a lot of people drop, but now the doors open up towards Boneyard, so when you try to go upstairs, go inside from the roof, you are exposed to a big shoot area, we've gotten laid out a few times by really good snipers from the far side of Boneyard, but So now it makes more sense to clear those buildings from the bottom story and work up so you're not exposed, except for there's better places to hide inside now. So if somebody beats you in there and closes the door behind them, they can get the jump on you, and it makes it a little tougher to clear those apartments out. So I like the little changes. It made enough of a different map without really changing the whole thing top to bottom. I don't get why people are really complaining about it. I know they want a new map, but I think a new map is coming because I think the next, what is it, Warzone 2 or Battlefield 3 or whatever's drop. I don't know what the next drop is, but they're talking about when the next game drops about nuking Verdansk all the way to oblivion and giving us a brand new Warzone map, which I'm excited about. So there you go, Lonzo. That's how you waste an entire segment talking about nerd stuff. Aren't you proud?
I didn't find it a waste. I don't play the game, but I found your I found it intriguing, almost to the point that it makes me want to play. But it also lets me know that I am not skilled enough to jump into a game like this that a lot of people have been playing, and I would be a detriment to any team. Plus, is there friendly fire?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm all right then. Come back.
Real unfiltered sports talk brewed locally.
Oh my God, a hipster! Bring him a microbrew, quick!
This is the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. This is ESPN Upstate. I am Rob Brown. Lonzo back in the studio, 844-GSP-ESPN, 844-477-3776 is the number. Be a part of the program. Text us on the Ingles Market text line at 71307, 71307. Start your text with ESPN. The first text we got in during the break says, blank Trevor Lawrence, that's my hot take. I'll let you fit. What did Trevor do to you, man? Except probably wax you in 3 out of 4 years. What did Trevor do to you besides smoke you in 3 out of 4 years, man? To warrant that kind of disgusting text message.
I think probably it's someone who believes you should always have a crew cut.
Crew cuts are coming back around, Lonzo. They're the next big thing. By the way, can I just tell you guys, I have seen a non-anomaly number of mullets in the upstate. Is that like the official haircut of choice? I have seen a ridiculous number of mullets running around lately.
Rob,
so
it's spring. Duh.
Is it mullet season here in the upstate?
Duh.
I had no idea. It wasn't in the handbook.
I have been told, well, you have a mullet, but I don't, because my hair is the same length all the way around. So, mullets are designed a certain way that I don't have, but I do recognize a good looking mullet, and it is mullet season, and it's just a sign that it's getting warmer out.
I checked my Welcome to Greenville handbook that I received when I became a resident of the upstate over a year ago, and nowhere in it did it mention that mullets were the official hairstyle of spring here in the great state of South Carolina. I had no idea.
So are you considering? You should. I mean, your hair's getting a little bit lengthy. You can pull it off.
No. I am squarely in. I'm still in the Kentucky Waterfall District, Lonzo. The mullet requires shoulder length before it's proper.
It does, but you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. Perhaps ask the lady friend and see what she says about the mullet.
First off, I can tell you the answer is going to be no. I have done in the past. I've done mullet bets with people, and I'm undefeated in mullet bets. Where one of the two of us had to rock a mullet, the loser of a bet had to rock a mullet. I'm undefeated in mullet bets.
I will tell you this: when I moved to South Carolina, nearly it was like 24 years ago. I came with a mullet, and I said, "I'm home."
Ironically, or you like legit rock the mullet as if it was a solid pick?
No, this is not a lie. I came with the mullet. And I looked around and said, yeah.
Right. But did you get the mullet because you looked at the mullet and went,
no,
this is cool? Or did you get the mullet because you were like, hey, I like attention in public?
It's me. Of course, I believe in hiding in plain sight by picking a body feature where everyone will look at and not actually look in my eyes. So yeah, you know, I had the mullet several times in Ohio.
So you rock the mullet ironically.
And as a way to troll, which is the other reason why I keep my hair long.
See,
so
I have seen an impressive number of people rocking the mullet unironically. Like you can tell when somebody has a mullet ironically, like they're rocking the mullet because it's funny, not because they looked and went, what a great choice of haircut. And then there are people who rock the mullet and like shave the design into the side of the head. And they're rocking the mullet because they looked at the mullet and went, this is cool, man. I am going to be cool.
There are days of nostalgia when I miss my mullet, and what I do is I go with the Shawn Michaels look of just, you know, tying up just the top half and throwing a hat on, and it looks like I have a mullet, and you know, and I'm back. It takes me back. You haven't seen any femme mullets, have you?
Yes.
Have you really?
Yes, I have. I saw one.
Those are a thing of beauty. I just have to say.
Last weekend, I saw one. Oh, like a dedicated, I have had this haircut for years.
Were you driving through Lawrence County at the time?
No, it was
downtown. Oh, okay.
Downtown Greenville. As a matter of fact, it was at Falls Park. It was at Falls Park on the Reedy. I saw like a legit, not like, I'm talking like a lady who had to be in her late 40s. And it wasn't like I grew my hair out, I'm about to cut it short, so I'm going to rock the mullet for a day or two as a lulls moment, right? You can tell when somebody has had long hair, like they have legit long hair, and then they're like, I'm going to cut the hair short, but before I do, I'm going to sport the mullet for a couple of days for the lulls to embarrass my friends, versus I have had a mullet for a very long time, and this is the choice that I actively make in my life to do.
Well, this is how much my wife loves me. She actually went out in public with me when I had a mullet. So, I mean, there's that.
Congratulations. You found a keeper.
Yes, I did.
I to the point, so many mullets, so that me and a couple of the amigos here in the upstate have a text thread. Like I said, we have two text threads. We have one where we talk about life, and then we have a separate text thread. It's just a mullet hunt, and we're keeping points. Like you get 5 points for finding a mullet. You get 10 points if the mullet is longer than the shoulders. Like another 5 points if the mullet's longer than the shoulders. And you get a 5-point bonus if there's a design carved into the side of the short hair on the side of the head. So we're in a mullet point. I am at like 35 points in the Great Mullet Hunt of 2021 between me and the amigos. I'm at like 30 or 35 points now. And it's like 35 to 30 to 15 to 15 to 10 so far. So it's not like there's and no duplicates. Like we're not running into the same 2 or 3 mullets over. It's a choice that a lot of people in the area are making.
By the way, mullets they're unique. You're not going to find two that are exactly the same unless they're twins. And even then, you know, there'll probably be some sort of variation. I would like to volunteer to embed myself in mullet society to find out, you know, what drives these people.
It's like going undercover, Lonzo.
Exactly.
The only way to do so is to rock the mullet yourself.
Well, I can do that. You know, I'm willing to do that.
When I say mullet, so I'm not talking like, oh, my hair hangs back. I'm talking you got to shave the top of the head and leave the back long. Like that's a commit. That's not a commitment you're willing to make. I know you better than that.
My first mullet, and we all remember our first, right? We all remember our first mullet. My first mullet was my best friend in high school, Henry Logan. I'm just gonna say his name because he might be watching right now. Cleveland Browns fan. Congratulations, your team's finally winning. Said that my hair will stay the same my entire life. I will never change it. So I went out and got a haircut before graduation, and I had the full-on mullet. It was very close to. It was a mix between Kiefer Sutherland and the lead singer for Flock of Seagulls. Except for what I did is I spiked the top and I left bangs. And then I had the shaved on the sides and the full-on mullet in the back. And the only error in my thinking, which I shocked everybody with this, was that with all the mousse on, I couldn't keep my cap on. when I was walking across the stage. But yes, that was my very first mullet.
For the record, I'm gonna host a debate that I will leave the votes up to the text line. I would argue, though, that's not a mullet. That's a stylized long hair choice, right? Mullet.
No, because
to the skull.
It's no, it doesn't. It's party in the front. It's business in the front, party in the back.
Yeah.
So if my hair was not spiked and I pulled my hair back, it would look like I had a short haircut in the front.
It's business in the front, party in the back. But if you spiked your hair, that's not business. That's party all over, man. That's full party.
Listen,
you went party front to back.
I'm gonna go OG on you because that's what I am. I am the OG mullet. So I consider myself an expert in mullets, and it absolutely was a mullet.
I'm going to argue that you had a good 80s haircut.
Oh, it was a great
80s cut.
It was
not a mullet. Text line, the Ingles Market text line at 71307. Shoot us a text on the Ingles text market text line at ESPN. I have had a mullet for 5 years now. It's not a shaved side mullet, just a flow out the back mullet with some side length, and you are making me feel very bad about it. No, listen, you live your best life. Big dog, you live your best life. We're just curious as to what led you to make that decision. Another texter says, it's the same texter. He says, I have a mullet. Budweiser and Copenhagen is what fuels us. At ESPN, Lonzo, be careful. Rob is a hair Nazi and discriminates against bald people and people with mullets. Long gray hair is next. Don't you slippery slope me into hair judgment. I'm just saying mine is better than everybody else's. I'm not saying everybody else's is bad.
Rob and I definitely, he's got me messing up here, but Rob and I definitely can agree that there are certain people who look really good with a bald head.
Yeah, the only reason I cap bald folks is because if I shave my head, it would look like I was carrying around a white watermelon under my hat. I would never take off, by the way.
And if I shaved my head, I would look like King Kong Bundy.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing that. Now there's a wonderfully bald man down the hall who looks good bald. You can never pull that off, especially when it's tanned. Oh, for sure.
Snowman can rock the bald look when he shaves first
St. Patrick's
Day.
Yeah, it takes 3 inches off his height, but which is saying a lot for him. But still,
Snowman blows me away because in July he's got this great 90s alt rock all spikes going on, and then in March every year he's a domer and he pulls them off both very well.
But here's what he does. There's a wonderful organization called St. Baldrick's where you take donations and you shave your head. And then they use the hair to make wigs. And that's what he does every year.
All right. We got to run to a break. Now that we talked mullets, if you excuse me, I'm going to go drink my Monster Energy drink during the break here. 844-GSP-ESPN. 844-477-3776. Text us at 71307. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, we will get into actual sports. As a matter of fact, South Carolina spring game will keep wrapping that up, but a recap of UFC 261. Kamaru Usman wins via KO in an unbelievable knockout. That's next on the Rob Brown Show. Rob Alonzo, this is ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your Amazon.
And also, I will never discriminate against gray hair because every day I look in the mirror, I have more of it. For years though, if it was a graph, I've had a small, steadily increasing number of gray hair, and then sometime around April of last year, blame it on the pandemic, that graph line just sharply Everested it up in direction.
Well, I'm heading towards Colonel Sanders. So, I know my hair is going to turn completely white. Surprising, the last 2 years, I put in a lot of gray and a lot of white. I don't know why. I'm looking up 80s mullet hairstyles, and yeah, there are pictures, including Andre Agassi. And of course, you got the famous Billy Ray.
Billy Ray's mullet was the Ulta mullet. Let's do take a look at mullets on the live stream. All right, so when I see mullet,
all right, we got some Duran Duran mullets up here too, and I think that you're limiting what a mullet actually looks like.
This is the classic mullet. When I think mullet, this is what I see over here on the right.
By the way, if I didn't,
mullet,
okay, all right,
mullet, like with a fade on the side with the long on the back. This is a this.
So you're saying Patrick Mahomes has a mullet?
No, Patrick Mahomes' hair is long all over his head.
Okay,
have longer in the top, and if it's long on the top and longer in the back, that's not a mullet. That's just long hair. Like this is where you start to. This is where you kind of start to fade between mullet and long hair with short sides.
That looks like a horse's mane in a way. Yeah.
This when I see him like this is a good mullet with a little bit like medium on the top, but still significantly longer in the back.
That looks exactly like my cousin back in the day. I think it might have been him. Yeah.
Look at that mane. Like this. This is not a mullet. This is just long hair.
That's Steve from Stranger Things.
Yes, it is. This is. You see, I don't think this is qualified as a mullet. This is just like he just needs to cut the little coif on the back, and it's a good haircut.
So there we go. Now we know what your real sentiment is. What a good haircut is, because you just said that.
Oh yeah, like this. If I can get this haircut like this.
30 seconds. I can tell you where there are certain bowling alleys you can go to, and good luck finding anything other than a mullet.
This one right here. This is a very fancy mullet. This is a wedding mullet right here.
Wedding mullet. Coming back.
Filtered sports talk every weekday noon to 3. This is the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
For those of you not on the stream, you just missed a fantastic class in the vast variety of mullets between Zoe and I. Go back and watch it on the stream at youtube.com/The Rob Brown Show or facebook.com/ESPN Upstate. 71307, the Eagles Market text line. Call us 844-GSP ESPN. Zoe, I want to talk about the card top to bottom, and we will start with what if it wasn't for the Kamaru Usman knockout of Jorge Masvidal would have been the fight of the night, the moment of the night. And that was Chris Weidman threw a calf kick at Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall checked it, and Weidman's leg just snapped. I mean, it was the same injury that Anderson Silva had when he did the same thing to Chris Weidman. I was watching that fight as well. Silva threw the calf kick at Weidman. Weidman got the leg up to check that kick, and Silva's leg just wrapped the wrong way at the shin around Weidman. Well, Weidman threw that same kick at Uriah Hall. Uriah checked it the same way, and Weidman had the same result. His leg just snapped and wrapped around the leg of Uriah Hall. Weidman immediately crumpled to the floor in an obvious immense amount of pain, had to be stretchered out of ViStar Memorial down there in Jacksonville, taken to the hospital, underwent surgery on Sunday. What a horrendous injury. I feel awful for Chris Weidman. He prepared that was a fight that I think would have an impact on the future for Chris Weidman. So to see him go down like that, Anderson Silva sent out an Instagram post where he offered his thoughts and vibes for Chris Weidman. But what a first off, I mean, horrendous, gruesome to watch. Glad that the surgery went fine for him. Still has a huge road to recover to be able to get back to use that leg. I don't think there's a point yet to where we can question whether we'll see Chris Weidman back in an octagon or not. But what a horrendous moment to be watching.
Yeah, there was an ominous kind of start to this pay-per-view when Jimmy Crute got kicked in the back of the leg and his leg wouldn't work. And so his leg is not working and he's trying to come out in the second round and his leg would not work. And so this is how you started the pay-per-view portion of and then Weidman was next, and then that gruesome injury, and you couldn't help but think, man, this thing is cursed. With some really, really bad things happening. And I definitely feel for Weidman. And I'm with Daniel Cormier. He's like, you guys are going to have to talk about it. I can't watch it again.
Yeah.
And same with me. And as someone who I had total knee reconstruction because I got hurt and my knee got blown up and blown to pieces and shredded and had nerve damage. And I know what it feels like to look down at your leg and it doesn't work. And and the other thing it reminded me of, Sid Vicious back in the day. I mean, you can go look at it if you want, or don't if you can't handle it. Yeah. Him jumping off the top rope and it just broke in his leg. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, it was painful. Hate it for Weidman. That was just a gruesome injury for him to have to go through.
And if you're listening, Chris, we're pulling for you, man.
100%, man. 100%.
Because he's based in South Carolina now, and he could be listening right now, and it looks like the surgery went well and everything. And if he decides to get back in the octagon, awesome. And if he doesn't, it's understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. It was horrendous. He put up a post as well after surgery on Sunday. It was announced on the fight itself that he was back at the hospital and stable. Had the surgery Sunday. Looks like it went well. Just get yourself healthy, man. Absolutely. Ask you questions though, because this is absolutely true for me. Anytime that there is an injury, I was watching years ago the Miami Ohio State game that Willis McGahee got. Remember that Willis McGahee hit? I'm sure you were watching Zoe's an Ohio State guy. When McGahee got tackled low and his knee just went the wrong way, and not like a little bit, like it blew up on him. Watching Joe Burrow's injury, and
you can throw Marcus Lattimore in there. There are a lot of guys. Yeah, I can't watch it a second time.
I can't watch it a second time, but does it? And it does in combat sports, maybe even more than football, basketball for me. Gordon Hayward with the Celtics a couple of years ago. Whenever I see a guy in a game or a fight have an injury like that, it makes it really tough for me to watch the rest of whatever event I'm watching, because when I see it live, that injury just sticks in my head, especially when it's so bad. And it's not as much of an issue on pay-per-views, but like in NFL games, if a guy or a college game guy has an injury like that where his knee goes the wrong way or his leg explodes, they usually won't show it again, right? They'll just say, hey, listen, we've decided that this injury is too graphic to replay. So they'll just give you status updates on it. I get to a point where I have a really hard time watching the rest of the event because I just get that moment stuck in my head and I can't shake it. So even coming up like towards the rest of the fights, even when it got to Usman Masvidal time, like it got to the point where I was kind of like looking out the window and just watching the fights in the periphery. And you know that there's a chance it's going to happen every athletic event that you pay attention to. But it really just it just took the energy out of what was otherwise a fantastic card to pay attention to. It just kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit, which was too bad because it was a great card.
You know, I get that, and I think any other card, it would have had the same effect on me, but there were 3 title fights on after that, and including Shevchenko coming on right after that. And, you know, I've been lauding how good I think she is, and watching her and watching that fight, it lessened it in a way, that sickness that you feel and how upset you are that someone got hurt like that. I think it lessens it a little bit as far as a viewer. And I was able to get more into it, but I do agree. You're right. It's always in the back of your mind, every fight. And that's what I was saying with the way this pay-per-view started. It looked like maybe it was cursed in a way where you got 2 fights, 2 injuries. What's going to happen with these titles coming up? But you spend the money. You can't be going, okay, that's enough for me. Especially when, you know, it's our job to watch this sort of thing. So you got to stomach through it. And it did take some of the joy out of it. but I think Rose made me forget a lot of it when we got to her fight. The fact that Rose was able to defeat communism, and which I was rooting for the entire time. And communism was not happy.
Just give her a shield and a helmet with an A on it, Lonzo.
Absolutely. And communism wasn't happy, and communism wanted to complain about it to the referee that it might have been a quick stoppage. But, communism went down with a kick to the face, which is how it should go.
Just calling Willie Zhang now? She's just known as communism?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Rose Namajunas captures the strawweight crown, one round of action with a first round KO. I mean, it was pretty clear. Yeah, I know that Zhang protested the stoppage, but that head kick KO'd her, man. She was out before she hit the canvas. She came to relatively quickly, but you can't let the fight continue when a fighter goes to sleep, even if they wake up immediately. Valentina Shevchenko proves that she is the best 125-pound fighter in the world. Absolutely dominated Jessica Andrade to retain the belt. I thought we were going to... Here's the thing about the Shevchenko fight, Zoe. There's really not much to talk about. She just dominated Jessica Andrade.
She did what she does.
To the finish. Yeah, there's not a lot to break down. She did exactly what we thought was going to happen.
She did what she does. She looks serious coming to the ring. She always has that beautiful smile when she leaves, because she usually leaves a winner. And there's nobody to compete with her. We were talking about on the stream who our top 3 fighters were, and she's my number 2. I don't like putting Amanda Nunes number 1 because I don't like her. But and it always seems to be that way. Like the best fighters, for some reason, I don't like. But there's no doubt that Amanda Nunes is number 1. I think Shevchenko is number 2. And will this be another case where it takes a while for the fighters in that weight class to catch up with the most dominant? We saw it with Ronda Rousey. We've seen it with some other fighters where there's no one even came close, and then suddenly, boom, there was competition everywhere. How long will that take, or will she continue and end up retiring without losing the belt?
And then, of course, we had Usman and Masvidal, a fight that I don't think it went the way. I think, honestly, of all the fights, this one probably the one that didn't go the way that we thought it was. I mean, I picked Kamaru Usman to win that fight. I thought that Vegas had it right. I thought he was probably a 2-1, maybe 3-1 favorite.
Yeah, thought it would go in the later rounds.
Yeah,
it did not.
It was going to be later in the fight. I thought they would. Look, they spent a little bit of time on the ground, and Kamaru Usman was able to get Masvidal down. But here's the thing. I thought if it went to the ground and it spent too much time there, that Jorge Masvidal was going to be maybe not the winner, but I thought that he would pick up some points. Usman controlled it when they went to the ground. I mean, he just had more power than Kamaru Usman did. When he got him to the ground, he controlled the ground game. He put Masvidal where he wanted him. But then that right hand strike, I mean, Masvidal just was not ready. I don't think it was, to me, it was like Masvidal was not at all. He was prepared to go to the ground and wrestle, and he got out wrestled. And then when they went to the stand up, I don't think he was looking for Usman to have knockout power. That right hand, though, was on the button from Kamaru Usman. It was in the perfect spot. It was the perfect punch. He kept him looking for and that's the thing that I liked. I mean, as a boxing guy, Usman was working the jab. He kept the jab working. Even when the jab wasn't necessarily landing and making an impact, he kept working the jab. And as he kept working the jab, Lonzo, got to the point that Masvidal started looking for the jab. And then he dropped that left fist just long enough for Usman to throw that right straight in there, put it right on the dime. It was a perfectly accurate strike. And Masvidal was out before he hit the canvas. Look, you don't have to say that Kamaru Usman's the best pound for pounder in the UFC. I think you said you've got him 4th on your list, and I'm fine with
3.
that, Lonzo.
We got him 3. Yeah,
I'm fine with that. I'll say right now, as far as his weight class goes, if there are 2 guys that are ready for him at this point at that weight, I'd be shocked if there were 2.
All I know is that I think Masvidal should have went back and got that belt. That fake belt, or whatever you want to call it, the belt that The Rock put around him as the baddest, the rest. And he should have took it out and put it over the shoulder of Usman, because he is not that guy anymore.
844-477-3776, 844-GSP-ESPN. Text us on the Ingle Market text line. The Ingles Market text line at 71307, 71307. You got any more thoughts on 261? You're welcome to give them. Love to hear it. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 2. My name's Rob. He's Lonzo. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your phone everywhere on the radio.com app.
$30.
30 seconds.
And downs, the ins and outs, real, unfiltered sports talk. It's the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate. Rob, Lonzo, you, 844-GSP, ESPN. Text us on the Ingles Market text line at 71307. Start your text with ESPN so we can read them on the air as we wrap up hour number 2. Coming up in hour number 3, one more look at the South Carolina spring game. Plus, we get to that conversation about the Braves. What is going on with Atlanta? We'll address that, plus a quick look at the NBA's playoff rankings. We have seen our first few teams eliminated from playoff contention as we've got just a few weeks left in the NBA season. So that's coming up in the next hour as well. And on top of that, if you're a fan of Girl Scout cookies, do I have good news for you? No, I'm not going to ask you what your favorite flavor is because everybody does that. But we all may be, those of us who are Girl Scout cookie fans, about to have a windfall. Pretty excited about that. As well, we'll take a further look at where we stand moving towards the draft, including a potential trade with 2 teams in the NFC South answering phone calls right now that could shape the division next year. I'll tell you what 2 teams those are and what impact it might have. Next, I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate, baby.
ESPN Upstate. Day. Warning.
check this out.
Your unofficial Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Yeah.
Only on ESPN.
ESPN Upstate.
Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's hour number 3. Great to be with you. Thanks for hanging out. My name is Rob Brown, the great one Lonzo back at the helm. 844-GSP-ESPN is the number to get on the air, 844-477-3776. Text us, 71307 on the Ingles Market text line. So, 2 trades might be going down before the end of Thursday when day number 1 of the draft rolls around. The first involves the ATL Falcons. Hotlanta, according to sources, is receiving interest about a trade to acquire Julio Jones, the outstanding wide receiver, formerly Alabama Crimson Tide turned Hotlanta Falcon. He has been with Atlanta since he was drafted a decade ago, 2011. He was brought into the fold, has been one of the most prolific wide receivers in the National Football League ever since that point. His stat lines are absolutely ridiculous so far throughout his career. Ever since 2015, he has been averaging at the minimum 85 yards per game. For his career, averages 95.5 yards per game. He has 60 touchdowns to his credit. Now, the numbers have been on a decline since 2018. He had 1,677 yards that year, averaged 104.8 per game in 2018. In 2019, 1,394 yards and 92.9 average per game. In 2020, 771 yards and averaged 85.7 yards per game. But he also had injuries, so he only played 9 games last year. And then, of course, had his bounce back season after that. Julio's been to the playoffs 4 times in 2011, 2012, 2016, and 2017, but has not returned since 2017, though obviously he's been playing in an NFC South that has been dominated by New Orleans, and last year, Tampa Bay with Tom Brady added into that mix. The rumor is that the ATL is interested in trading away Julio Jones and moving on from their outstanding wide receiver. I am interested by that, not because I think it's a good time for Julio Jones to be traded. I don't think. I think Atlanta would be silly to get rid of Julio Jones at this point. He is still an all-pro who can play at an all-pro level. But in Rappaport is reporting that the Falcons have received calls from multiple teams. They are discussing it. A trade could not happen for trade reasons before June 1st, but Atlanta's in a very, very bad cap situation right now. This would go a long way into clearing up some of that cap space that they find themselves in right now. And it would do what I think is the biggest thing here, Zoe, which says to me that the ATL is likely most interested in trying to pick up Kyle Pitts, the young man, out of the University of Florida. If they were to go with Kyle Pitts to replace Julio Jones, who I think is likely one of the few, maybe the only guy in the draft that would be able to accomplish that, that would be intriguing. Now, I don't love the pick because if I'm going to add Kyle Pitts, I want him opposite Julio Jones. Good luck trying to figure out the direction you're going to go defensively if you got 84 lined up on one side and Kyle Pitts lined up on the other side. But if that move gets made, Zoe, it kind of tips the draft hand, I think. It kind of tips the draft hand of the Atlanta Falcons, shows me that Kyle Pitts is the guy, And you'll have to be, if you're Carolina, dealing with Kyle Pitts for the foreseeable future in this division.
Agreed. I just wonder, what is the trade value for Julio Jones? Because I think he's still got something left.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're him, you're hoping to go to a contender somewhere. And they're probably not going to trade him somewhere in the division. But if they did, would you take him in New Orleans?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. In a heartbeat. I think Julio Jones has been the most mismanaged wide receiver. Now, the question's going to be under the new regime there in Atlanta. The question's going to be, will Arthur Smith utilize Julio Jones better than the past regime did? If Dan Quinn, to me, always tried, and this was kind of interesting. Dan Quinn always kind of tried to use Julio Jones, I think, as a breakaway wide receiver instead of what he should be, which is a dynamic possession wide receiver. Dan Quinn tried to use Julio as a guy. Let's send him down the field deep. Let's let him run down on a streak and see if we can throw the ball over guys. Julio Jones is a jump possession wide receiver. Julio Jones is a cat that I'm putting one-on-one. I'm creating situations where I'm getting mismatches on Julio Jones. I'm throwing the ball up in the air, and I'm letting him go get it up and over guys. And Dan Quinn never used him that way. If I'm Arthur Smith, I'm absolutely using him as the wide receiver that Dan Quinn never used him as. And if that is the case, I still think he's first-round talent, man. I mean, he's still very, very talented. I would take him in New Orleans in a heartbeat. Now, the question is going to be, what do they want in return for him, right? I mean, they're doing it to... Now, let me be clear. The Saints can't get him because they're not going to have the cap room either after they sign their first-round draft picks. He's going to go, if he gets traded, he's going to go to a team who has a good cap situation because he going to get paid no matter where he ends up at.
I hate to say this, but what about New England?
Possibility pairing him with Cam Newton's interesting. New England's going to make some moves on draft day, so I don't think we're going to end the day with New England making one draft in or one pick, in the first round. And New England's going to pick up 2 or 3 vets this year on first day, I think.
The other question is, if you are a Panther fan, would you want Julio Jones on your team?
So I think if you're an anybody fan, you want Julio Jones on your team. I mean, he's probably only got 3 or 4 years left in him, but he's got 2 more years of being one of the top 5 or 6 wide receivers in the league.
Please do not let him go to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't see that one. I don't think Tampa has the cap room. Again, the problem you bump into when you get a name like Julio is that you are asking for a massive contract there. He's going to be getting fat stacks. And I don't know if Tampa's going to have the room to sign. I mean, they have some room, but you're looking at a pretty cap-friendly situation to bring him in there. But I think the more important, the more prevalent question here for Carolina is that it kind of, again, it tips the cap of that number 4 pick. If Julio Jones, if they arrange a trade before draft day, it's going to be for a first-round pick. What's interesting is because of cap reasons, the trade can't officially happen until June 1st, which means, though, that if they make the trade, somebody's got to trade for his contract as it stands right now with Atlanta. Otherwise, it won't be a draft trade. But if that trade gets made, pretty much you can guarantee that means that they're going Kyle Pitts with the number 4 pick, which takes 2 things. Number 1, it takes Kyle Pitts off the draft board before number 8. But the other thing it does is it pushes a couple of quarterbacks back, right? You're looking at a quarterback at 1, at 2, and at 3. So you're still going to have Justin Fields on the board. You're still going to have Trey Lance on the board. And I suspect that Mac Jones is going to be off the board by 3. I suspect that you're going to have Trevor Lawrence 1, Zach Wilson 2, and Matt Jones 3, or vice versa. Some combination of those 3. But Trevor Lawrence is 1. The popular thought right now is Zach Wilson 2 and Matt Jones 3. But if Atlanta goes Kyle Pitts with 4, as it signals to me that they are interested in doing in sending that trade away for Julio Jones if they arrange it, if they go Kyle Pitts at 4, that means that you're still going to have Jones and Fields on the board at 5, at 6, and probably at 7, which means when the 8 spot rolls around, Lonzo, if it plays out the way it's shaping up to, you might still have 2 QBs on the board at number 8 instead of none or one. Now, all of a sudden, if you're Carolina, and we've been talking about Carolina's, in my opinion, the correct decision, which is to trade back from 8. If there are 2 quarterbacks sitting on the board at number 8, Zoe, with a run of teams at 9, 10, 11, 12 that could all be looking QB, now all of a sudden the draft value of that 8 spot has just skyrocketed at that point, because it's going to be a bid war between teams to try to get in there at 8 and take the one of those 2 remaining quarterbacks off the board before New England or Denver or somebody else jumps up and grabs them.
Yeah, I'd be completely shocked. If there are 2 quarterbacks there at 8, I'd be completely shocked if Carolina stayed there. I mean, with all the potential of what they could get out of it, they would have to trade out.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason they didn't, wouldn't, or shouldn't at that point. It would be, as far as I'm concerned, it would be nuts to keep that 8 spot with 2 QBs on the board at that point, predominantly because we know there are going to be a lot of squads at that point that are going to be looking to move up. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Rashad Beard, Panthers Nation, is going to join us Thursday at 1 o'clock. Of course, Thursday at 1 o'clock is draft day numero uno right here on ESPN Upstate. And ESPN Upstate is going to be your home for draft coverage for the 2021 NFL Draft, the biggest offseason event in football. Get the most comprehensive coverage and analysis as it happens. It's the 2021 NFL Draft kicking off Thursday, April 29th at 7 o'clock. Full coverage of round 2 will be on Friday at 6 o'clock. Rounds 3 through 7, Saturday at noon, on the name that you know and trust for the best NFL coverage in the Upstate. It is ESPN Upstate, 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg, and on the Odyssey app. So on Thursday, right after Offsides with Mark Ryan, on Friday at 6 o'clock, and then the entire 3rd through 7th round on Saturday, you'll be able to listen to the draft and comprehensive coverage of it right here on the Big Stick, ESPN Upstate. So Carolina fans, Atlanta is looking at offloading Julio Jones. Makes me think that Kyle Pitts is the guy at number 4. Pushes 2 quarterbacks on the draft board down, likely to a spot, unless Cincinnati or Detroit decide to push back. It pushes 2 quarterbacks potentially back to the 8 spot, makes that 8 draft pick look that much valuable for a trade down. Agree or disagree, Carolina fans? Send your thoughts, 844-GSP-ESPN, Texas 71307 on the Ingles Market text line. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a moment from right now, we're going to talk a little bit of Atlanta Braves baseball. Then after that, back to the South Carolina spring game, a few more observations that I made on Sunday afternoon, and then we'll wrap it up with Twitter trending topics. That's all next on The Rob Brown Show. This is ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your...
So the last couple of weeks, while babysitting, I've been watching a lot of Vice TV. This is not good for you.
Vice TV.
I saw The Last Days of Owen Hart.
Yeah.
It's pretty depressing. And something else. Tackle it. What can I? Oh, the Von Erichs. Now, that's a messed up story.
Yes, the Von Erich story is a weird one, man. Have you watched the documentaries they've been doing on A&E? They've done Stone Cold, Hitman, and Roddy so far.
I watched Stone Cold, and I have Roddy recorded. So I'm planning on watching that. I'm also recording where I forget the name of the show that comes on after that, where they're going out to try to find WWE treasures.
Yes.
Like the original Sacco and things like that. I find that really, really cool. And the fact that these guys don't have this stuff and actually have to go out and look for it.
Right? That's what blew me away. I was like, of all the companies that I wouldn't think would have to go on a treasure hunt for all their gear, it would be them.
1 minute.
My freaking mother texted me. My mother texted me on Sunday. And she goes, I'm watching this documentary about WWE having to go out and find all their old stuff. And my own dear sweet mother texts me and she goes, you're not nearly as big of a loser as you think you are. And I was like, thanks, Mom. I think. I don't know.
It's validation, man. Right there.
I guess it's validation. I couldn't tell if it was validation or a valid insult. It was one or the other.
Can it be both? I think it can be both.
It might be both.
$30 seconds.
For upstate sports junkies.
These pathetic junkies? Come on, look at them.
You eat sports like food every day. Get hooked on the Rob Brown Show, noon to 3 every weekday on ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate. I am Rob Brown. Lonzo back at the helm, 844-GSP. ESPN is the number, 844-477-3776 is the number to be a part of the program. The Atlanta Braves get swept yesterday. The LT Braves get swept by the Arizona Diamondbacks. Madison Bumgarner throws what I believe to be a no-hitter. 7 innings pitched as MLB has gone to doubleheaders are now 7-inning games. You'll play 2 7-inning games in a day as opposed to the back-to-back 9s that it has been up until last year when the pandemic shortened the baseball season. As far as I am concerned, I 100% believe that the 7-inning game should count. They absolutely should count as a full game. If baseball's going to do that, then the pitchers who throw impressive games should be awarded the records they get. The Braves and the Cubs set to play baseball over the next 4 days. Both teams have played through pretty similar experiences over their most recent pair of games. Both headed into tonight's game on back-to-back L's. Both scored a grand total of 0 runs while combining for a total betwixt the two of 5 hits. Atlanta had one of them. The Cubs had the other. This is one of those weird scheduling quirks where a pair of teams get their season series out of the way within the first month of a season. The Braves are 2-1 on the season against the Cubs. They will play their final 4 games against each other over the next 4 days. One of those wins came at the expense of Chicago starter Zach Davies, who will be on the hill for them tonight. They played that game back on the 16th of this month. The Braves ran him from the game. They ended the first inning with 4 home runs, should have been 5. One caught the wind and was just a couple of feet short. Atlanta hit Davies up for 7 hits in the first 4 innings, 3 walks and 4 runs, all of them earned, which chased Davies from the game in the fourth inning. If the Bravos can bring that back to the dish tonight, if they've just got Davey's number, that would be great news, but not based on the team that I saw yesterday on the hill. Not based on what I saw yesterday. I'm not overall impressed. And by the way, Charlie Morton will be on the hill for Atlanta on his first start of the season. Morton went 5 innings, gave up 3 runs. In his next start, he went 6, only gave up 1 run. But after that, tossed another 6, but gave up 5 runs in the process there. On his next outing, 6 innings, only a single run. And he has been basically alternating good and bad starts since the beginning of the season. If the Braves are going to win tonight, he's got to break that pattern. He's got to break that trend. He has yet to string a pair of good starts together this year, so he would have to do that tonight. There's nowhere for this rotation to go but up after what we saw on Sunday and last Friday, so Morton gets a chance to right the ship there. Look, the Braves have had a lot of injuries. They had Acuna out for a couple of days. Ozzie Albies was out for a handful of days. They've seen some other guys get in and out. Dansby Swanson left the first or second, I don't remember. He left one of the games yesterday. Had a routine shortstop hop that he flipped it for the 2-getter, but then had some wrist injuries, stayed in for the rest of the inning defensively, but then ended up being replaced in the rotation. There's nowhere to go up for the Braves, which I guess is the good news. The bad news is I don't really see anything to indicate that Atlanta will be able to pull that off. That game is going to be tonight at 7:20 Eastern Standard Time. Look, and by the way, Travis d'Arnaud and Dansby Swansby were both in for game number 2 yesterday. They said that the pull of Snicker in game number 1 was a precaution, but he did play in the second game. Didn't bring a lot to the dish, as they got said. Looking to see what the rebound is going to be. The Braves, by the way, check this out, Zoe. We were talking about records with Madam Baumgartner earlier in the show. The Braves became the first team ever to record. Oh, by the way, I didn't see my face wasn't on the stream. Sorry about that, streamers. The Braves became the first team to ever record just a single hit in a doubleheader. In every doubleheader in recorded modern day MLB history, there has been one team to ever record just one hit in a doubleheader, and it is the Atlanta Braves. Back in 1992, Cleveland had the previous low, just 2 hits in a doubleheader. Now, granted, they had only 14 instead of the regular 18 innings to do it, but the lowest amount of hits in MLB history in a doubleheader. Zoe asked me the question earlier, what can the Braves do to fix this? And the answer, Lonzo, is I have no idea. And I guess that's the most frustrating part about this. The single most frustrating part about all of this was very simply that I don't know what to do to fix it. I mean, you can jog the lineup a little bit, I guess. You could maybe move Dansby up to the 1 spot, move Acuna down. I mean, really, Ronald Acuna up until this weekend was the only consistent part. He was coming off of that injury in the Braves 1-1 split in the 2-game series against the Bronx Bombers in midweek action last week. Maybe you can jog the lineup a little bit, but Zoe, here's the thing. It doesn't matter who hits where if nobody is hitting the ball. You can put anybody you want into any slot in the lineup you want, but if nobody's putting the ball into the baseball field, it doesn't matter whether you're hitting first or ninth. It's bad.
So does that really work? Because I've heard about the jogging the lineup thing. Historically, does that work?
It does. And ordinarily the reason that you would see it is because you maybe put guys who are cold, who are batting 1 or 4, right? Your high pressure spots. You always want your leadoff guy to get on. You always want your 4-spot guy to be driving in ribbies. Those are pressure spots. And if you've got a guy that's in the 1 or the 4 spot and he's not getting it done, moving him to a spot where there's less pressure, you take the need for him to get hits off and you just say, look, man, just go out there and hit the ball. You're batting third now. It's less important than you do as a one guy, or you take the cleanup guy and you move him down to 6 or 7 in the lineup, and you say, all right, it's less important now that you get hits. We just need you to get on the base, and we'll let you hopefully be on base when the top of the order rotates back around. You take a little bit of that pressure off of the guys who were in the high important spots. You put them in low value or low clutch spots, and they can find a rhythm a little bit better. But again, it doesn't matter, because it would be one thing if you were going, all right, the Braves aren't getting production out of the 1 spot, out of the 4 spot, so we're gonna move the 2 guy up to 1. We're gonna move the 5-6 guy up to 4. We're gonna drop the 4 guy down to 6-7 and move everybody up a spot or 2. That's one thing, but it doesn't matter if the 4 guy is not getting hits and neither is the 6 guy. It doesn't matter if the 1 guy is not getting hits and neither is the 3 guy. That doesn't help you any. And I guess that's the spot. It's one thing, though, if you're not getting production out of your high value order guys. It's another thing when you're not getting hits out of anybody in the lineup. That's where you really run into a problem. And that's where the Braves are right now, unfortunately.
And that comes down to the thing that you were talking about. How do you fix it? And it just has to work itself out. It's a slump type thing, and it's a long season. Do you believe that this is the team you're seeing now? Is this the team you're going to see mid-season? Is it going to be this bad by then?
Law of averages says no, right? It's an MLB team. Law of averages says they're not going to average 0.5 hits every 2 games moving forward. Law of averages says no, they're going to start hitting the baseball. The problem is, Lonzo, ordinarily, at least there's a couple of things you can circle on the score sheet after a game's over. Ordinarily, there's 1 or 2 things you can circle and go, okay, we're not getting hits here, but at least blank, right? Even up until now, you could go, all right, we're not getting hits out of Dansby Swanson, but we are getting hits out of Ronald Acuna. So we know we can put him into the, and I think Acuna is batting leadoff today. We can move Acuna to the 1 spot. We're not getting hits out of Ozuna, but we are getting him out of Freddie Freeman. So let's move Freddie, even though he's not a natural 4 guy. Let's move him into the 4 spot until Ozuna gets hit or gets hit in the ball, and we'll put him back in the cleanup spot. There's nothing to circle right now. You had up until the injury, up until the ab strain, you could at least circle Freddie or Ronald Acuna's name and say you're getting value out of 13. But in the last 4 games, you can't even circle Ronald Acuna's name and say there's some production. So it's yeah. I mean, you'd like to say this isn't the team we're going to say in 2 months from now, but I don't have anything to circle and say we'll grow off of this. There's just nothing happening. The Braves are a dead baseball club at the plate right now. I appreciate the hopeful optimism. I'm trying to maintain it. I'm rocking my Braves hat right now. I'm trying to maintain the hopeful optimism here, Zoe, but
all I can say is don't look at Twitter during the game.
Oh, yeah. It's toxic.
Yeah, don't do that.
It's toxic. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, one more look through South Carolina's spring game. We'll take some looks at the highlights and the question marks in that game, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up with Twitter trending topics. You want to jump on? Plenty of time. 844-GSP-ESPN, 844-477-3776. Text us at 71307 on the Ingles Market text line. Quick break back after this on the Rob Brown Show. It's ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your computer and tablet at ESPNUpstate.com.
QC Kinetics in the next break.
All right. Is Harley back today?
Nope.
Okay. And somebody asked me earlier, could Trevor Lawrence, if he wanted to, refuse to play for the Jags and demand a trade a la Eli Manning? And the answer is yes, he theoretically could. He won't. I don't think he's that kind of guy.
You mean he's not a punk?
Right. He's not going to do that.
Like Eli Manning, punk.
But my favorite thing about researching that scenario to see exactly what Trevor could do, Lonzo, is I came across a New York Jets fan site where a guy spent an entire article trying to make his point about how the Jets are a better franchise than the Jaguars, and Trevor should spurn the Jags and allow himself to be drafted number 2 by the Jets because the because the Jets are just a much more model franchise than the Jags. And it's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of really. I mean, for the last decade, when you think of the worst teams in the NFL, I think the Jets are the first name that come to mind. For a while, Cleveland was in there. And yeah, Jacksonville has been in there, but they've had more playoff wins in the last 20 years than the Jets have, haven't they?
The Jets suck. And the answer to that, my understanding would be, Trevor can demand a trade or basically refuse to play, right? He could do what the rumor was Deshaun was going to do with the Texans. He can't force them to trade him. Eli's whole thing was that they organized the trade with the Chargers. The Giants organized the trade with the Chargers. That the Chargers went, all right, we would rather take what the Giants are offering for Eli Manning than own his rights, but just have him no show on us for a few years and just sit out and come back later. If Trevor Lawrence didn't want to play for the Jags, he would have just stayed at Clemson for another year. He'd have just played one more year for the Tigers.
Yeah, and then he would have got to play with the Jets the next year.
Right. It's not like it would have changed. Hell, there's no guarantee he wouldn't have still been drafted by the Jags next year.
I am disappointed that Minshew Mania ended because I was down for that. I like that.
He's going to end up somewhere else at some point. Give him one more shot. Minshew Mania.
One minute.
In a moment of hilarity that will make you laugh, Zoe, I was answering a tweet and I went to put Clemson and it autocorrected to corrections, like corrections facility, which I found hilarious.
They both wear orange, so it's not a surprise.
Join the Rob Brown Lockdown on Twitter. Tweet at The Rob Brown Show on the Upstate Sports Leader, ESPN Upstate.
Had a question on the Twitter just a little while ago from Thomas King. And Thomas asked if Trevor Lawrence could pick where he wanted to play. Could he just say, I'm not going to play for anybody except Team X? And the answer is no. The draft is much different than the draft is much different than college, obviously. Now, Trevor could say, I'm not going to play for Jacksonville, kind of like Eli Manning did with the Chargers a number of years ago, and it would create a situation where the Jags would then have to decide, do we trade the number 1 pick? Do we draft Trevor and then trade Trevor and try to get a treasure trove worth of acquisitions for him? Or Trevor could just refuse to play and sit at home and not be in the NFL. But no, he could not say, I only want to pick for this team or that team. Eli got traded because the Chargers came up with the litany of players and picks for him in return, which is why we did the very awkward thing where Eli walked on stage and held up his Chargers jersey alongside Roger Goodell, or was it Paul Tagliabue, whoever, before he got sent over to New York. Remember, the Chargers ended up with Phillip Rivers out of that trade, so it wasn't exactly a horrendous situation for the Chargers at that spot. But no, TL couldn't just say, "Oh, I only want to play for the Panthers." At that point, he would have to choose: do I want to sit out, or would the Jags be willing to make the trade and trade him somewhere else? But here's the thing: if Trevor Lawrence was going to be, if Trevor Lawrence didn't want to play for Jacksonville, the best option for him would have just come back to Clemson for one more year, and he didn't do that. I did get a chuckle during the break because I was answering that message, and I went to type what I just said, which is if TL didn't want to play for Jacksonville, he could have just stayed. He could have just stayed with Clemson one more year. And when I typed in Clemson, my phone auto corrected it to corrections and suggested the next word be department. So my phone tried to replace Clemson with corrections department, Lonzo. I can't take my phone in public for threat. It will be destroyed by the next Clemson fan I bump into.
It's still, when I think orange, I think corrections. And, those guys out there picking up litter will be ready to head down the street and see a Clemson game and won't ever have to change.
As the great Owen Wilson once said, wow. All right. Spring game for South Carolina. If you missed it earlier, little audio from Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer was obviously on the field for the first time as the head man for the Gamecocks this weekend. There's a couple of spots where the Zoom audio kind of bailed out on me. I didn't have chance, unfortunately. I didn't have time to edit it out. But there's two spots where the audio drops out. You'll hear where they are. But here is the press conference, the post-game presser from Shane Beamer after he made his debut as the head coach this weekend in the spring game for South Carolina.
The format was a little bit different for us today, primarily because of injuries. I mean, you guys saw, I think we had 23 players that didn't play today that would be normally playing if we in a game.
Here's spot number one.
I was about in the press conference earlier this week. And then when with the injury situation, we had 3 scholarship running backs out. We didn't know if JJ was going to play until really yesterday. So credit to him for coming out and having the kind of game that he had. But with that set up, or knowing that, we just couldn't divide into the two teams. So we broke it up very similar to the way we did our two scrimmages, offense, defense there in the first half. And then the second half, so to speak, was competition, which was good. And then again, a lot of those injuries are postseason surgeries, rehabs, things that we've already had. And then some of those things, they're just some bumps and bruises that have happened throughout spring practice. Special teams, we did that drill there at the end of the first quarter. We've to finish up the spring. That's something we've been doing all spring practice. We didn't do punt today as a full group. Coach Limbo, what he did on the punt team at Memphis is different than what I did at Oklahoma and other.
Here's the second spot. Go ahead, coach.
Role to see. So that's why we did what we did. But I was pleased overall. It was good to see the offense come out. I talked about it earlier in the week. I wanted us to be efficient offensively, being able to get in and out of the huddle, minimize the pre-snap penalties, and feel like we did a great job of doing that. It's good to see us run the ball. Zaquandre White and Jaheim Bell, we knew they were going to have the opportunity to have big days today with some of the injury situations we had at running back. So I'm really excited about those guys. Like I mentioned a minute ago, great to see JJ and those guys come out and make some plays. So overall, pleased. We got out of it fairly healthy for the most part. Had a couple minor ankle injuries, but nothing long-term from that standpoint. So excited about the day overall. And now we go into the summer. Our guys have exams starting this week, so we got to finish up strong academically. They'll be gone. A lot of them will be gone in the month of May, and then we get back here June 1st for summer school. And this is a huge, huge summer for all of us. There's no doubt we've gotten better as a football team from January when we started the offseason program to now. We've gotten better, but still not good enough. We've got to take another step here this summer and then in the training camp. But excited about where we are right now and love this group. They're hungry. They work hard. They do everything that we ask. And like I mentioned the other day, I wish we had 15 more spring practices. 1, we need them. And 2, I'm having a blast coaching them. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Shane, you mentioned Zaquandre obviously getting a few more reps with Marshawn and Kevin not playing. Just what did you kind of see from him, and what did you kind of take away from his performance and, scrimmage environment anyway.
So fired up for him. That's the way he is every day in practice. That's the way he is every single workout. I've told the story that the very first walkthrough we had in the indoor back before we even started spring practice, we handed the ball off to him one time and he, went full speed down the sideline, ran 30 yards to the end zone in a walkthrough. And I remember turning to JJ and talking, what's up with this guy? And they said, Coach, he's that way every single play. And he is. He's always got a smile on his face. He's high energy. I love the way that he competes and the way that he runs the football. He is a weapon for us. He does a great job on special teams, and he's going to have I think he's going to have a big time 2021 season. He with Kevin Harris and Marshawn Lloyd and Rashad Amos not playing today, he took advantage of that opportunity. There's no doubt about it. And he's going to get a lot more carries because of it.
So I let him go on with that first response there because redshirt senior running back Zakondre White was a stud in the spring game. I mean, an absolute stud in this game. 95 yards and a touchdown in one half of action, plus a few limited spots in the second half where they were basically running condition offenses, third down offenses, red zone offense, etc. But Zakondre White, I found it interesting, Zoe, and kind of an indictment about the Will Muschamp regime that Shane Beamer comes in. This kid has a stellar spring game, is running out of his mind. He's catching passes out of the backfield and looks dangerous as a pass-catching running back. And Shane Beamer said 2 or 3 times, in fact, they interviewed him during the game in the first half, and one of the guys said, Coach, Zakondre is out here running up and down, running through the defense, and a pretty good defensive line for South Carolina's first team D. And, what can you tell us about this kid? And Shane Beamer said, look, I don't know where he was last year. I don't know why he wasn't getting the numbers. And we know that there are the Kevin Harrises of the backfield that are going to step back, and once they get healthy are going to be contributors as well. But he said, this kid's like this all the time. He runs hard. Every snap, every rep is for him like it's the biggest play of his life. He is going to be a contributor in every aspect of the game, offense and special teams. If he runs like that, I could see him returning punts and kicks this year. It was really interesting, Zoe, to see him play like that, and for Beamer to say, I have no idea why this kid wasn't a stud last year because he's going to be this year, to the point that he called him out and recognized him by name unprompted a couple of times, both in the press game and the post-game presser and during the game itself. The fact that, and I know it's a spring game, and again, I told you earlier, don't get to the point you're making knee-jerk reactions over a spring game, but I don't think it's knee-jerk to say Zakondre White had an incredible spring game, and I am shocked that we didn't really see him do all that much last year, and I won't be shocked to see him be a major part of the offense this year if he can carry that same level of success into the regular season.
All right, a couple things. First of all, I am not shocked that Will Muschamp didn't see the potential in a player. I am not shocked by that at all. The other thing is, we all in our life at some point will have the opportunity to shine where you normally wouldn't get a chance to shine, and show what you're made of and cause more opportunity for yourself, whether it's in sports, in your job, whatever. You're going to have that chance. And kudos for him for stepping up and doing what he's doing and looking like he's going to get some playing time out of it. I think that's great.
Yeah, the dude looked like an OG, man. Looked like a stud in that game, and it absolutely will not shock me if that dude becomes not just a part of, but an integral part of what they do offensively. Luke Doty looked good. Again, nobody, Zoe, I don't want to say anybody looked like, oh, God, put him on the Heisman list, right? Don't put him on any award. Nobody, but it's a spring game. It was super vanilla. It was super laid back. There wasn't a lot of versatility in the play calling. It was regular routine, and I'm good with that. It's a spring game. It should be, but top to bottom, Lonzo, I think it was efficient, right? They were disciplined. Not a lot of pre-snap and post-snap penalties. You didn't see guys lined out of position. I think there may have been one blown coverage in there during the entire game. No real blown coverages. Linebackers were covering gaps. Linemen were utilizing very basic schemes. They never really got fancy, but offensive line was following their schemes right. It's exactly wanted to see out of a spring game, though, which is go out there and run that first half, run a live game format without making mental mistakes. And for the most part, they executed efficiently. Guys were in the correct spots. They weren't jumping. The snap counts were good. Doty was making the right throw, if not a spectacular one. I was very pleased with what I saw.
Me too. And the other thing is, I know I keep harping on Muschamp, but until we get that bad taste out of our mouth, it's gonna be there for a while. But the fact that just Shane Beamer's demeanor, not only when he was, technically on the sidelines, but back behind the plays and all that kind of stuff, he looked like he was into it. He was smiling. He was happy. He was excited when he was on the air with the guys who were interviewing him. Same thing. And I'm looking forward to it. He didn't make me think, oh, great, the Gamecocks have made a wrong choice. It's just he's doing everything right so far. We'll see what happens when they actually get on the field in competition, but so far he's doing everything right.
You know what? I'm going to give you that. That's a great point. And I thought about that watching it. Shane Beamer was bouncing around the field. The guys were into it with it. And look, it's one thing. I mentioned this before. The comparison I made multiple times is him to Willie Taggart. Willie Taggart was the same way, bouncing around the field, happy, smiling. He was in his dream job, but the players were all on board, etc. But there were plenty of mental mistakes in the 2 spring games that I saw out of Willie Taggart's team. Plenty of mistakes. A lot of guys lining up in the wrong spot, busted coverage, pre-snap penalties, etc. I didn't get that from Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer, his guys were disciplined. They were in the zone. They were executing. They were doing their jobs. And on top of that, Shane Beamer looked like he was thrilled with where he was in his life. It wasn't like Nick Saban levels of serious. I mean, he just looked like he was having a good time coaching, but having a good time coaching and doing it successfully, as opposed to having a good time coaching and kind of being out of his element. The guy was running a practice, but bouncing around and smiling and joking. He reminded me, Zoe, not that South Carolina fans will be thrilled with the comparison, but we talked about Clemson spring game 2 weeks ago, and Dabo walking the sideline with his own ESPN microphone and talking and laughing and having a good time, but also coaching his team. Shane Beamer looked just like it in the best possible way that I can compare those two.
I can neither confirm or deny that what you're saying is correct, but I may or may not have had the same thoughts.
Yes, I'll take it. Twitter trending topics next on the Rob Brown Show. Rob Lonzo, this is ESPN Upstate.
QC Connects.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your Amazon or Google smart speaker. Just say, play ESPN Upstate.
QC Kinetics. Regenerative non-surgical therapy. Listen, it's spring. We all want to get out and start doing stuff. We all want to get out and be more active. We all want to get out and take walks or go play golf or go pick up a little basketball one-on-one time with the boys, right? We all want to be able to do that. But unfortunately, some of us have problems. Why? Because we've had that injury or we've had that issue with knee pain that starts with these spots where you got a little dull pain, and then one day it's a little bit worse, and then the next day it's just this aching pain. It just keeps getting progressively worse and worse, and it's tough, man. It's tough. And then one day you go to the doctor and you say, hey, look, man, here's a spot. I can't play golf because my hip hurts, or I can't play pickup basketball because my right knee has got this pain. And he goes, hey, here's the deal, man. You got to have surgery. I'm telling you, call QC Kinetics first. Call QC Kinetics because their non-invasive, non-surgical rehabilitative therapies will help you get better, feel better, without having to have surgery. And when you meet Dr. Richard Schaefer, MD, the first time, and they do the first round of therapy right there in the office, you don't have to go to any outpatient clinics. You go in, you get the treatments, you go home, you relax, you let it heal you. It works. Go to their website, qckinetics.com, qckinetix.com, qckinetics.com. You will hear from dozens and dozens of patients who have gone through QC Kinetics non-surgical regenerative therapy and feel better. Let them do the same for you. Again, check out their website at QC Kinetics, qckinetix.com, or call them today at 864-448-3772, 864-448-3772. Mention the Rob Brown Show. Get that first consultation for free. It's our friends at QC Kinetics right here in Greenville. All right, hitting the restroom real quick. Zoe's in charge of the stream. BRB. Oh, Zoe's leaving too. Perfect.
So it looks like we'll only have time for one, maybe two Twitter trending topics. Do I go with the risque one? Is that the one I go with?
Can't be worse than when you did herpes last week.
Oh yeah, it can be worse.
Than that?
It could be from my point of view, yes. Which is why we're going with that one for sure. I don't want to give it away. I will just say if I had to theme it, it would be hygiene. Now Rob is trying to figure out what could it possibly be.
No, I'm not going to cheat.
Good, because we need genuine reaction on this.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Plus, I've looked before. You're and I wonder if it's because we're in different different areas of the network, but your Twitter trending topics and mine are usually different. Or you might have them like regional, and I have mine set national.
No, I look through all of them, including national. The problem is that I guess I'm more of a nerd than you are. So mine gear a certain direction. There's a lot of video game trending stuff that I just completely skip. Yeah. And I'm fine with that because you gear your own Twitter towards things that you're interested in. And but if you go with they have choices for you, then they have what's trending, and then they also have sports, entertainment, news, all that kind of stuff. You can flip through all those. Some days are just more boring than others. This is not one of those days. All right, it is time for Twitter Trending Topics, where I tell Rob what is trending and he will tell us what he knows about it. And seeing as how we have very limited time, let's get to the one that I'm a little worried about doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that would be Tyrese.
Yes, Tyrese. I saw this before we went live today. Tyrese went live on Instagram over the weekend. And Tyrese, this is a challenge for me as a host, though, because I have to figure out how to phrase this without getting fired at the end of the show. Tyrese went live on Instagram, and yet the most recent example of why all social media should be deleted immediately.
He's an amateur barber. Let's go with that.
he was helping to groom the private areas of his lady friend, shall we say. It was filmed from her perspective, and Tyree. Now, I haven't watched it because Zoe, obviously, I haven't watched it.
Yeah, me either. I just saw what was trending, went to see what it was. It was like, oh,
yes,
okay.
Tyrese is seen from his partner's point of view, holding a razor and grooming his lady friend. And that is all I'm going to say, except to ask the question, why is social media? Just
well,
why?
All I got to say is love and trust. That's what that is. Love and trust.
All I got to say is, like, social media from, like, award ceremonies, not from that particular location. All right, Tyrese, and literally everyone else in the world. Offsides, which this conversation is up next with Mark, Ryan, and D. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Tomorrow on the show, more baseball, further fallout from the spring game, and a whole lot more. I'm Rob Heaslonzo. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. Thanks for listening, y'all. This is ESPN